only station in Sacramento giving you local sports coverage from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Sacktown Sports.
What is up, everybody? Happy afternoon. Happy Friday. Brendan Nunez here filling in for Alan Stiles, getting a little bit of a vacation. I'll be here up until 1 p.m., and then Kevin Whitey Gleason will take over and lead you into his show at 2 p.m. We got a Jonas Valanciunas press conference at 2. That's why I'm getting out of here a little bit early, but we got plenty to talk about here. Appreciate everybody tuning in. As always, the Sacramento Kings made it through the trade deadline with a handful of moves taking place, including most notably, obviously, moving De'Aaron Fox to the San Antonio Spurs in a deal that landed them Zach LaVine as part of a 3-team trade. You got Jonas Valanciunas joining the team from the Washington Wizards. Zach LaVine has now played 2 games in Royal Purple. You've seen Jonas Valanciunas make his debut last night in Portland, his Sacramento debut. We're going to dive into that and what we've seen so far, early returns from these guys. Also, they finally got their wing. Finally got a wing, a forward, some depth with size on this roster, and hopefully some defensive ability as well. Jake LaRavia being acquired from the Memphis Grizzlies. We're going to have a reporter on later, Brian, who wrote a great story about LaRavia leading up to the deadline, sort of how he got to this unique situation that he was in with Memphis, with them turning down his 4th-year team option on his rookie deal after being a first-round pick just a couple of years ago. So going to get some insight there on just what Jake LaRavia can bring to this Kings team. Again, mentioned it, but the desperate need for some wing and forward depth on this roster, and that is finally coming around here. So we'll see what LaRavia can bring. Also, I think just looking at the team as a whole post-deadline here, we got, De'Aaron Fox going out, Colby Jones, Kevin Huerter, Alex Len, Jordan McLaughlin, and the 3 players I mentioned earlier replacing them. What do we think stylistically will be different with this team? Are they going to shoot more threes? They got some better three-point shooting on this team. That's been a struggle for a lot of this season. Are they going to get more threes up and actually knock them down with this group as well? And, of course, the trade deadline is not all about the Sacramento Kings, even if that's going to be our focus here. There was plenty of other movement around the NBA and specifically in the Western Conference. So got to take a look at where the Kings stack up after all this movement, because everything is relative. It's about how you can compete with the teams around you. And, did end up helping one of them with the San Antonio Spurs, obviously right behind you, and that's where De'Aaron Fox ends up. But we'll see where we think the Kings stack up in the West after all this. And we also got Chris Watkins joining the show from noon to 1 p.m. Going to help close out with me here before we both head to the Jonas Valanciunas presser. But also this morning, Carmichael Dave, just right before I got on here, shared a conversation he had with De'Aaron Fox yesterday, as the fan base was being very vocal about how they felt about De'Aaron's exit. We will replay that audio at about 10:30 here. And after that, obviously dive into some of the specifics, some of the conversations I've been having surrounding Fox's exit in the days leading up to it, weeks leading up to it, and in the aftermath here. But plenty to dive into here on today's show. Definitely going to be happy to take texts, callers, anything in the chat going on here as well, of course. So plenty to dive into. I think, first of all, it was a busy trade deadline, like I mentioned, making those swaps and finding a way to retool the roster, which obviously De'Aaron Fox being sent out in the draft capital that was acquired in that deal is a big part of why the Jonas Valanciunas, why the Jake LaRavia deals were eventually able to take place at all, and what future draft capital still remains on this team. Monty McNair had a press conference addressing the Mike Brown firing for the first time. That's not specifically what the presser was for, but when they hold a Monty McNair press conference before they hold a Zach LaVine press conference, where Monty McNair is also going to be out there, it's the team kind of knowing, hey, we haven't talked about the whole Mike Brown thing. So maybe we'll give Monty his moment here. And I thought that there were some interesting comments from him kind of pointing the blame on De'Aaron Fox throughout the whole situation. Just that he put them in a difficult situation, wanting a preferred destination of the San Antonio Spurs, which I think is pretty normal. We're going to dive into it more as the show goes here, but there are many instances where a player is on their way out of an organization for whatever reason. Again, I think we'll dive into more here as we go of, did he earn one out? Did he feel forced out, and just sort of how all that went down? But there's plenty of scenarios where players have a preferred destination. I think it's the first time in his 7.5 year career where he got to really control his fate. And some of that is just the nature of the NBA. But I think that, you know, he got to have his preference, and that affected conversations, obviously. But I think it's very normal for players to do that. There's a sense of player empowerment in the league, obviously. And there's no loyalty from these organizations either. You see Luka Doncic, a guy that was probably thought of as close to untouchable as you get in this league, getting traded at this deadline. And then they have plenty of comments to say about him on the way out the door as well. So I think it's understandable from De'Aaron's standpoint, but I also get Kings fans' frustrations here as we start diving into the show. Performance in Portland yesterday, and also against the Orlando Magic the day prior. Maybe we'll start with that Orlando game a little bit here. Zach LaVine's debut. The Golden One Center crowd gave him a great ovation. Shout out to Scott Moak, who was on the morning show after they traded for LaVine, sharing a little bit of the behind the scenes of how he figures out how he was going to introduce Zach. But the Golden One crowd definitely gave him a nice ovation. Wasn't the best showing for Zach, though. It was the second time all season that he has failed to make a three-pointer, which obviously points to how atypical that is as a guy that's shooting 44% from three on more than 3 a game throughout the course of this season. But there's going to be natural growing pains. It's committing to Malik Monk as the starting point guard on this team. And when he sits, Zach LaVine has additional responsibility as the playmaker of this group. And I think that there was, you know, again, there's going to be learning pains, growing process, growing pains for this team that LaVine still has to figure out. There's a familiarity that he has with Doug Christie, both of them being Seattle guys. There's a familiarity he obviously has with DeMar DeRozan, playing 3 or 4 seasons with him on the Chicago Bulls, and both of them stating that they're really good friends. But this is going to take some time. The issue is the Kings just fell below 500 with their loss to the Blazers yesterday. Blazers, by the way, one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest team in the NBA, believe it or not. The Kings just fell below 500 and are sitting at, I believe, 11th in the Western Conference, barely out of the play-in picture currently. So how much can you survive these growing pains while also trying to remain competitive in a very crowded, very, very crowded Western Conference as of the time of, as of right now here on Friday the 7th? OKC obviously still at the top. You got Memphis in the 2 seed. And as you go down the line, Denver 3, Houston 4, LA 5. The Kings are only, is this 2.5 games behind, 3.5 games behind the 6 seeded Minnesota Timberwolves. The Kings currently sitting in 10th. They are also only 2.5 games of the 11, 12, 13th seed Portland Trailblazers, who obviously they just lost to on the road last night in Moda Center. So there's really this group of, if you go 6 to 13 in the Western Conference, Minnesota, the Clippers, the Mavericks just made some trades. I think that they're going to be pretty good this year. Long-term, a lot of questions about the deal that they made sending out Luka, but Anthony Davis, I feel like, is getting overlooked a little bit in all of this. You know, you only got 1 draft pick, but Anthony Davis, a really, really good player. And
pretty good at basketball.
Yeah, he's pretty good at basketball. Hot take. And he's been pretty healthy recently as well. I think it'd be foolish to just write off this Dallas team after this move, even if they're going to have some growing pains as well. Phoenix Suns don't really end up doing much. I'm interested to see how the rest of their season goes, given all the trade speculation that was surrounding Kevin Durant leading up to the moments in the deadline. The Sacramento Kings sitting there at 10th. We're going to walk through all the changes they made. Again, some adjustments that are going to take place, but you got to remain competitive here. You got the Golden State Warriors sitting right there at 11th, same record, 25-26 as the Sacramento Kings, and they just added Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler, a little, causes drama on his way out of teams, and I think there's a little bit of a cycle, though, that we've seen this a few times from Jimmy, and when he eventually lands with his new team, this is a guy that can still be extremely productive even at this point in his career and probably help make a difference for this Warriors team that's trying to remain competitive in this Western Conference as Steph Curry enters the twilight years of his prime. San Antonio Spurs. I mean, do we need to say it?
We could just say they got better.
They got better. They got a point guard that had 13 assists in his first game as a member of the Spurs. I want to say that's a San Antonio debut record for him there. Portland Trailblazers starting to find a little bit of an identity. They're funnily enough in a spot. I mean, with that game against the Kings last night, they've won 6 straight. They've won 10 of their last 11 games. Part of me wonders how much they love winning games right now. I'm sure it's a good feeling, like defensive identity that's being developed under Chauncey Billups. I thought the length of Ayton and Tumani Kamara, Denny Avdia, Jeremy Grant all made a difference against the Kings yesterday, and that's been one of their keys to this run. A team that I'm probably not too concerned of with really making a play-in push here, but somebody to keep tabs on. And point being, there's 2 teams in the Western Conference that are really out of it. It's the Utah Jazz and the New Orleans Pelicans, who both have 12 wins, 12-37 for Utah, 12-39 for New Orleans, which is just absolutely ridiculous. These teams are 28-29 games behind the first seed. And obviously we're talking about the difference between the top and bottom of the Western Conference there, but that is an insane margin and just tells you the difference of what we're dealing with here. Even the Jazz who are down here in 14th are 9.5 games behind the 13th seed. 9.5 games behind the 13th seed. So again, 2 teams in the Western Conference that are really not competing here. And post deadline, we're going to see how some of this all starts to shake up here as there's adjustments being made with these new additions. And we start to see how everything shakes up. The Kings have some notable new pieces. Again, Jonas Valanciunas expected to be introduced to media with a press conference at 2 p.m. today. And we've got plenty to dive into. Like I mentioned, the Orlando game there, Portland as well. Plenty of movement around the NBA. There's still buyouts that need to be taking place. There's rumors about Ben Simmons just got bought out this morning, and there's certain teams that he's been linked to as a potential landing spot as well. None of them being the Kings. For anybody that may be a Ben Simmons fan out there, shout out Carmichael Dave as much as he wants to play it off a little bit. But a guy that, I'm sure Kings fans have pondered previously in the past, even dating back to when Ben Simmons was first being traded from Philadelphia. And there was conversation about, hey, do you include Tyrese Halliburton in a potential deal, which obviously in hindsight would have looked horrible. And they did not end up doing it. But it's a little different when you're talking about a guy as a buyout candidate rather than trading, your most recent lottery pick. Again, not a guy I think the Kings are necessarily in on. You mentioned the Cavaliers, the Clippers as potential teams that are expected to meet with Ben Simmons, but there could be other guys around the league as the Kings now have 3 open roster spots after these moves. I expect two-way rookie Isaac Jones, who's kind of been playing center for this team. He's been absolutely killing it in Stockton as well, to get promoted to a full-term contract here. And that because the two-way eligibility that he has only allows him to play so many games with the main club in Sacramento, and he's already reaching that threshold. So I'd expect that they will try and convert that contract to a standard deal, similarly to what we saw with Keon Ellis last year. And that would leave you with 2 open roster spots, along with a two-way spot that could try and be filled. Hey, CD Sissoko traded to the Kings, then rerouted to Washington and gets waived. Maybe you go try to pick him back up and bring him in on a two-way deal or something like that. I thought he was a somewhat interesting piece, even if he was an afterthought and what ended up being that blockbuster trade there. But like I said, plenty to dive into on today's show. Appreciate everybody interacting in the chat here, sending in text lines 916-339-1140. Brendan Nunez is going to be joining you here until 1 p.m. We got Anthony behind the glass. Stay tuned here on Sacktown Sports, 1140.
The Sacramento Kings play here.
He's got the triple. Sacramento takes the lead.
Get your Kings fix all season long right here on your home of the Sacramento Kings, Sacktown Sports and SacktownSports.com.
Hurry in and save big during Honda's President's Day sales event at Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Hurry in and save on our best selection of new Hondas. Each is priced to sell now. Folsom Lake Honda is your one-stop Honda shop for great pricing on a giant selection of new CRVs, HRVs, Civics, and Accords with low finance and lease options. Plus, get an instant cash offer for your trade. Get to Folsom Lake Honda or go to FolsomLakeHonda.com.
Folsom Lake Honda, yeah, your one-stop Honda shop.
Fall head over boots in love with music this Valentine's Day. Get ready for Sacramento's premier country music festival, Country in the Park, returning May 16th and 17th at Cal Expo with Bailey Zimmerman, Billy Currington, and more. Enjoy food trucks, mechanical bulls, and line dancing. Tickets start at just $52. Visit CITPFest.com. Brought to you by Hyatt Vacation Club. Don't just say, I love you. Show it with music. Buy tickets now.
The only station in Sacramento giving you local sports coverage from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Sacktown Sports.
Brendan Nunez joining you here with Anthony behind the glass, filling in for Alan Stiles. He's getting the day off. Might be out there on the greens. I think I'm using I can pretend to be a golf guy. Not really, but I can try. People say on the greens, I guess.
Probably
Yeah,
at
probably.
some point. It's probably been said.
You sound like you're on the same page as me.
Yeah, I'm
not
on
a
the same
golfer.
page as you.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Well, whatever golfers do, Alan's probably doing right now. And last night, Sacramento Kings played their first game with Jonas Valanciunas available. Again, we have a introductory press conference for him here at 2 p.m. over there at Golden One Center. But a guy that the Kings acquired a couple days ago in the days leading up to the 2025 NBA trade deadline. And after they moved on from De'Aaron Fox, had some draft capital available to them. Essentially went from, if we're going to talk about the second rounders, again, they got 3 first rounders in the deal and 3 second rounders, but really the Charlotte 2025 first is lottery protected as a team that's still in the teens for wins at this point in the career or of the season. Charlotte is going to be in the lottery, and that is going to turn into their 2026 and 2027, I believe it is, second round picks. So you went from 1 second round pick you're working with to 6. And again, that's assuming that we're just calling the Charlotte pick 2 second rounders. Monty McNair instantly pretty much goes on to flip some of that draft capital, specifically those second rounders, for Jonas Valanciunas. They send out Alex Len. Sorry, excuse me. They end up sending out a couple second rounders in this deal. Yeah, it was Alex Len, Colby Jones, and 2 second rounders for 1 second rounder for Jonas Valanciunas here. An interesting deal as they try to get some center depth on this roster. There was a very big difference between when Domas was on the floor versus not. Their best offensive rating, the Kings, a team that I think is built to be a dynamic offense more than anything. Best offensive rating is with Domantas Sabonis on the floor. He's the connector of this group, obviously, and it's easy to see how he benefits this team specifically on the offensive end. Their worst offensive rating is when Domas is sitting. It is a drastic difference, a nearly 12-point difference in offensive rating between when Domas is on the floor versus not. And Isaac Jones, I mentioned earlier, I would expect his contract to be converted to a regular deal in the coming days here as the Kings have more roster spots available, but there's still some rookie moments with Isaac. As much as his His length, his athleticism is intriguing. He's a hustle guy. He also looks a little bit like a deer in headlights out there at times. I think slightly lost, which is understandable for a guy that he had a factory job not long ago. And then a friend that was on a college team, head coach said, hey, if you know anybody 6'7", 6'8", I'll let you be on the team as long as you bring them with you. And he hit up his buddy Isaac. So I think that it's understandable for Isaac to have some hiccups here in his first year.
It's fairly common when it comes to big men in the NBA anyways, like when they first start. Deer in headlights, it's a tough position. You don't really know where to put your body a lot of the time. You're big out there. So I don't blame him for it at all.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's part of it, that everybody always talks about it's a grown men's game. And I think that the bigs are really where you feel that huge difference in strength. I even talked to Mason Jones about this in the locker room one day, and he was pointing out how much more depth there is in the NBA as a whole, including specifically the G League. He was pointing out there are so many good guards in the G League that are NBA caliber players. It's just that there's even better guys at the NBA level, but there's such a stark difference between the bigs that you can tell will make an impact or could make an impact at the NBA level when they're playing in the G League, and the guys that probably belong to stay in the G League. And I think that Isaac has clearly shown the ability to be some of the former, somebody that, you keep tabs on and see what you get in the future. But Jonas Valanciunas does it for you right now. A guy that is nearly 7 foot tall, 6'11", and is on the first year, midway through the first year of a 3-year, $30.3 million deal. He's going to be on the Kings for a while. Obviously, barring any sort of future deals, obviously, but got a familiar relationship with Domantas Sabonis, both of them being Lithuanian, played on the Lithuanian national team a lot, watched them over the last couple years in the offseason. I'm forgetting the name of it, but like the Euro Cup or something like that they just participated in, trying to qualify for the Olympics, which did not eventually end up happening. But I think there's interesting notes. I saw Matt George mention that he expects them to try and play Domas and Jonas together. I'm more skeptical. We didn't see it at all against Portland last night, that being Thursday in Moda Center. I think that we may see it for random spurts. You would want to try it against, if he was available for Orlando, that might have made sense. But like you look at Cleveland has a huge roster. That's where you want to have the positional versatility to even consider going to larger lineups. Like we practically never saw Alex Len next to Domantas Sabonis outside of, I remember a random game against the Bucks where Alex Len started alongside Sabonis, and that didn't last long. He played like 8 minutes the entire game. Alex Len is a guy that I think Kings fans love. He's been around the team for a while here with multiple stints, but a little bit slow-footed. The second he gets on the floor, other teams are like, hey, let's put that guy in a pick and roll, and I'm probably going to be able to get a pull-up jumper here because it's a 7-footer that doesn't move the greatest. So as much as Alex is out there trying to get everything done, I think that there was a move that needed to be made here. And Jonas Valanciunas, the size that he provides, a guy that was only playing 20 minutes on Washington this year, happy to be a backup for that team. I heard that he was a great teammate throughout the process, even though he's a little bit later in his career, obviously here now at 32, and you'd imagine he wants to be on more of a competitive roster than the 2024-25 Washington Wizards, but still was just playing 20 minutes a night there, functioning as a backup center, 11.4 points, 8.2 rebounds, 2.2 assists, a guy that does a little bit of everything. And again, I think that the size should be one of the most helpful things for this Sacramento team moving forward here, because we've seen them get killed in the non-Sabonis minutes, as I mentioned. I think that obviously Domas is league leading rebound. This is probably going to be the third year in a row that he ends up leading the league in rebounds. You can now maintain that presence on the glass as you go to the second unit here. Even if you look at Jonas's first game as a member of the Kings, only 2 points here, or 6 points, sorry, but ends the game with 5 rebounds, 2 of those being offensive. I think he's a physical guy. Also, there's been talks about like the Kings need a little bit of an edge to them. if someone's going to say something to somebody, it's probably Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah, I like that they fill in that hole that they obviously needed to fill with getting another big. And I know that you said that you're a little bit skeptical with them playing together with Sabonis at the same time on the floor, but I think that it's nice to just have that option. Like, they get killed by big, tough bigs out there all the time, and I think it's nice to have two people who can really play against that.
For sure. Having the optionality is definitely a benefit to any team. Even moments where last night, Domantas Sabonis gets in foul trouble, eventually fouls out of the game. You have Jonas Valanciunas there as a backup. And I know that they only ran him for a couple possessions before being like, I think we're going to go back to Trey Lyles here. Probably because Jonas has been around the team for less than 24 hours while he's going out there. But I think that having that optionality is definitely beneficial. And after the game, Coach Doug Christie had some comments about Jonas, about the new addition, what he brings to the team here. So want to get to those comments, what Doug had to say about the new center on Sacramento's roster here.
5 rebounds for him, 6 points. It's difficult because there are certain things that you want to do offensively and defensively, and he's just trying to figure his way out there, what different defensive coverages are, what plays are. So everything has to be, pretty vanilla and super simple until he starts to get the lingo and all the different things out there on the floor. But all in all, I mean, he's an incredible competitor. Love what he brings to the team, and I think everybody in that locker room respects him. So he's going to be just fine.
Yeah, I think Doug is spot on there. Obviously, there's an adjustment that comes for these guys. A lot of times there's differences in terminology. One team may call it something while another team calls it another, and you just got to adjust to what their play calls are. While, obviously, again, every team runs it differently. You want to keep things a little cloudy for the opposition, so it's not black and white when they're hearing your calls on the floor as well. So something for Jonas to adjust to. Again, the size is the biggest thing here. Funnily enough, the first time I was credentialed for an NBA game, to take you behind the scenes a little bit, get like an email of, hey, this is how you get to courtside for pregame, and it's look for a black painted wall, go northwest from there. And I'm like, what? I don't have a compass on me. What are we talking about? And so I'm trying to figure out how to get to the court. My first game being credentialed, and the Kings are playing the Pelicans this day. This is maybe, I don't know how many years ago now, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like this. And I'm trying to figure out where I'm going, looking for a black painted wall, apparently, trying to figure out what direction northwest is. And I accidentally, apparently, am in the way of the opposing players' tunnel. And I don't know this. I turn around, and I'm in Jonas Valanciunas' way. And it was like, funnily enough, almost like my welcome to, oh, I'm really here moment. Because I turned around and I was like, that is the biggest floral shirt I have ever seen in my life. Like, Jonas Valanciunas and the size that he has stands out just being around him at all. And the physical aspect that he plays with while also being 6'11", that's what he's listed at. I think he's a legit 7-footer. But, little details there. I think that, as you mentioned, Anthony, having the optionality to potentially go big and just shoring up your backup center spot helps a lot here for this Kings team as they try to get right and climb further than the 10th spot in the Western Conference they're currently in right now, fighting for that play-in position. But a lot of conversation around De'Aaron Fox recently on social media, specifically yesterday and in the days following his trade to the San Antonio Spurs. Some comments he made that I think Kings fans didn't like, and our buddy Carmichael Dave from the morning show got the chance to speak with De'Aaron yesterday and shared some interesting notes that the former Kings guard told him about just the entire process on his way out and why Mike Brown being fired seemed to really be the final straw for De'Aaron Fox. So after we get back from break here, going to run it back with what Dave had to say this morning, because I think there's some important notes, and we'll dive into it here after. Brendan Nunez here on Sacktown Sports. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. As always, stay tuned to hear what De'Aaron Fox had to say here.
Trying to find out where to catch your favorite team's games?
Are you a fan of the Kings, Niners, and the NFL? Well, Sacktown Sports has you covered.
Touchdown! San Francisco! It's all on his shoulders. Cox rocks. He fires for the win. He's got the triple.
Catch all your Kings, Niners, and NFL games all year long on Sacktown Sports and SacktownSports.com.
Coach Doug Christie here for your truck headquarters, Folsom Lake Ford. Shop all your favorite models on sale now, like America's best-selling F-Series. Check out a huge selection of Mavericks, F-150s, and Super Duty trucks, or tech-filled SUVs like Explorers and Expeditions, plus a huge selection of Broncos and Bronco Sports. All in stock now at Folsom Lake Ford in the Folsom Auto Mall. Right now, buy any new Ford with zero down on approval of credit. Save big with low interest finance rates. And Folsom Lake Ford always pays top dollar for your trade. Hurry to Folsom Lake Ford in the Folsom Auto Mall, a 6-time Triple Crown winner for sales and service excellence. That's why they are my trusted dealer, and they should be yours too. For 35 years and counting, come down and take a test drive today. Tell them Coach Doug Christie sent you, or shop online at FolsomLakeFord.com.
With 25 award-winning years in Northern California, Ashton & Price is your local injury law firm. Pro attorney tip: if a firm presents as local but they're in LA, red flag. If your first consultation is not with a lawyer, big red flag. At Ashton & Price, your first consult is with a local attorney, and if serious injury prevents travel, a lawyer will come to you. Still not enough? George Washington's my uncle. At Ashton & Price, no red flags, just red, white, and blue.
Remember, for the best advice, don't think twice. Call Ashton & Price.
Okay, guys, who is done with their Valentine's Day shopping? What are you waiting for? Stop putting off your Valentine's Day shopping and go to Prestigio Jewelers today.
She's right. Prestigio Jewelers has everything you need for Valentine's this year. And you're approved to guaranteed. No credit, bad credit, even bankruptcy? 6 months proof of income guarantees you a credit line of $400 to $10,000. Time is running out. Make this a Valentine's Day she'll never forget. Visit one of our showrooms today or online at prestigiojewelers.com.
Dunks, threes, buzzer beaters. There's so much NBA happening. I gotta keep up.
Easy there. There's a better way to NBA with the NBA app.
Wait, really?
Follow your favorite teams and the league's brightest stars. Be on the ball with real-time stats and scores.
Yeah?
And go behind all the drama with new docs and shows.
Are you kidding?
Catch every swish, dunk, and bucket. All of this, all in one place, all for free.
Thank you.
There's a better way to NBA. Download the app today. Available on the Google Play, Apple app, and Android stores.
At Stockton Honda, we know how to honor a great deal. Like right now, during our President's Day sales event, you can find star-spangled savings on some of our best models. Why not stop in today and see for yourself? Save thousands with low APR financing and great lease rates on over 500 new Hondas at Stockton Honda.
Anytime, anywhere, it's all here. StocktonHonda.com.
Live and local, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. Sacktown Sports.
Brendan Nunez filling in for Alan Stiles here, taking you up till 1 p.m. We're going to have Jay, actually. I just got told, Jay Johnson filling in from 1 p.m. to 2 before the Drive Guys come on here from 2 to, I think they're going till 5:30 today, if I have that right. But plenty of talk among the Kings fan base about De'Aaron Fox after his exit from the San Antonio Spurs, some of the comments he made in the days leading up, and what he said after joining San Antonio, I think kind of upset Kings fans a little bit. And De'Aaron Fox seemed to want to clear the air and provide some clarity on his exit, why he said what he said, and just sort of what he meant by some of those things. And he reached out to my coworker, Carmichael Dave, yesterday and had a conversation with him about, like I just said, clearing the air, clarifying some of the things that have happened. I thought Dave did a great job laying it out this morning. So we're going to run that back here, everything that Dave had to say after his conversation with De'Aaron, where he clarified just some of the controversy that's been going on recently surrounding him after being traded from the Kings to the Spurs here. So here's Dave and what he heard from De'Aaron.
A couple of things here. I didn't pre-promote this. I didn't, not that there's anything wrong with that, but I didn't want this to be I don't know. I wanted to share it. And by the way, and he's fine with that. I made sure I'm not being a ding-dong here. And also, to be clear, as many of you know, I'm not the only media member he's reached out to. Okay, so I ain't special. But
so he obviously felt compelled to do that.
He felt compelled to do that. I don't know all the people he reached out to. I know a couple, and I'm sure there will be, if you're sitting there thinking, oh, De'Aaron Fox is doing his own spin. You're right. De'Aaron Fox is doing his own spin. I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to share. So I'll guide you through the conversation yesterday. The first message I got was, I never spoke to him. And Kyle, do you have that says, I never spoke to him before the trade? What that means is that's in reference to the interview that a lot of people have misconstrued, which is his text with Stephon Castle. For you YouTubers, that's up on the board right now. He sent a screenshot of his text message to Stephon Castle, or excuse me, I should say Stephon Castle's text message to him. I'll read it for those of you listening. Yo, brother, this is Steph. Lock me in, gang. Let's get to it. Fox responds, ready to hit the ground running. You're a big part of the reason I wanted to be there. Stephon Castle responds, means a lot, bro. Love you, game. Welcome. That was sent Sunday at 9:50. Now, here's what I'm not clear on is what time zone De'Aaron was in, but this was after the trade happened.
He should have been in Central Time.
Okay, so that would be
because they played OKC.
7:50 our time.
And we're going to Minnesota.
Right.
Yeah.
So 7:50 our time. So that was one thing he wanted to clear up from that interview where he said he texted with Stephon, but not, I think a lot of us, and I understand this, a lot of us took that as he was, texting.
Yeah, remember yesterday, like, could that be tampering?
Yeah, could that be tampering?
Player, which is, yeah.
No, that wasn't the case. So we went on to have kind of a conversation. I wanted to clear up some things. And when it came to Mike Brown, that's obviously, we had targeted that as a huge sticking point. Again, I'm quoting De'Aaron Fox. I told them, meaning the Kings, this summer during Mike's contract negotiations. Now, you'll remember Mike was going into his final year. There was a story about, the Kings balking on extending him. So this was at that point in the summer. De'Aaron Fox said, I told the Kings this summer during Mike's contract negotiations that I wasn't going to play for another coach. And if I was, it was going to be for another franchise. Once they fired Mike, the writing was on the wall. So let's disseminate that for a little bit. I don't know that necessarily, I'm not on a side here and calling balls and strikes. I don't know that necessarily paints De'Aaron in the best light either. You could make an argument. What is the star player doing involved in coach negotiations to the point where that would contribute to an opt-out or asking out? Also, you can make an argument, guys, they fired him because you guys weren't performing.
Absolutely.
You want to keep Mike Brown, win games. But I think this is more towards him wanting to get that part of it straight. This is important.
Yeah.
Because not only did he not get Mike Brown fired or allude to Mike Brown getting fired,
he's very close to him.
Is very close to him, did not want that to the point where he basically de facto threatened the order, do not fire him. So then when it comes out and there's all these stories about him being involved, he's necessarily going to feel the wrong way. I'm going to hold back one thing, guys, and I want to be perfectly transparent on this, and I hope you understand why. This is my choice. This is my decision to do this. He also added to me that he was aware that the organization wanted Mike Brown to fire either one coach or another coach. Okay, out of respect for those coaches who are still with the organization, I'm not trying to make their lives any sort of difficult, okay? But that is part of the story, and it will eventually come out in the wash. I'm just not interested in doing that. You can probably, I will tell you this much, it ain't Doug Christie, and you can probably do the math there on who those two were. Very easy math. I think this is maybe the most important thing he said in our conversation. And it really kind of goes to what we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks. This is De'Aaron Fox's, my conversation yesterday. Once they let me take the fall from Mike Brown's firing, I was done. Once they let me take the fall from Mike Brown's firing, I was done. The writing was on the wall with the firing and the fact that there was no press conference. The players were forced to do the PR. And on top of that, the media is now running with some of the media. And by the way, nationally, I don't know if anybody locally did that, is running with the fact that he had something to do with Mike Brown being fired. That was the last straw for him. Remember, there were two things mainly that led to De'Aaron Fox being gone. One was, does he trust that this team is going to build a winner behind him and compete? The other is the stability of the organization in general. I asked him, I said, so am I gathering this correctly? You wanted to spend your career here, but you didn't want to commit your entire prime to a franchise that wasn't doing the things necessary, in your opinion, to compete for a title, plus all the drama behind the scenes. Is that accurate? And he said, yes. You can want to do something, but that doesn't mean you end up doing it. And the extrapolation there, he wanted to stay here, but there were very clear things he wanted that either the Kings were unwilling to do, or didn't do them properly in his eyes, or he judged that they weren't going to do, and he made the decision. I said, why did you choose to reach out? And he said, it's unfortunate to me that almost everything being said is false. I tried to do my job and said, okay, I'm happy to share all this tomorrow, and I'll share it verbatim. Why don't you come on the show? Why don't you come on the show? Make that your last word. Say what you want to say. No filter, no operator, telephone, your voice. And he said, I that's fine. I just don't want to do it right now. I need my team to know I'm focused on them, but there will be a time, I imagine, over the summer. Some would say, well, if you're doing that, then why are you? Yeah, I get it. Yeah. The other thing I asked for, I said, there's one other thing that's kind of out there. Just want some clarity on from your side. There seems to be confusion. Your wife, Rasay, said on Twitter, you never asked for a trade. How does that square with your agent telling the team you wanted out? The Spurs were your preferred spot. I must be missing something there. He said, I never asked for a trade. So I made them aware of, and I'm paraphrasing now that. He said, this is quoting now, after Brooklyn, they told Rich, that's Rich Paul, his agent, they were getting calls. They were getting calls on me. So then we said, meaning he and his agent, if I'm going to be traded, I want to go to San Antonio. And that was before it was put out in the media that they were listening to offers. Then the very next game on this road trip, you'll remember, was in Philadelphia. He said in Philly is when Wes Wilcox, the assistant GM, came to me to tell me the day, and then that day it was put out in the media. To be honest, I really thought this was all going to happen during the summer. Did not think that this was going to happen during the deadline. In other words, the implication there that they kind of moved the timeline a little bit ahead. I said, okay, just a little. Let me be clear here. Wes came to you to Philly to tell you that they were getting offers of Brooklyn. He said, no, in Philly. They told Rich Paul, his agent, sorry, I'm just reading what's said here. They told Rich Paul after the Brooklyn game, Rich had actually informed them that night. In other words, Fox and his wife in his camp. But then the direct contact with De'Aaron to inform him was the following game in Philly by Wes Wilcox. I'll paraphrase the rest of this. I promise you, I'm not inserting or deleting, but basically his thing and his wants. And again, this is for all you to judge. I'm not being his attorney here. He wants to reach out and correct a few things because he loves the fan base. And we talked at length about that. He loves the fan base. This is home, or was home. He wanted to spend the rest of his career here. Now the Kings are going to, and by the way, I reached out to the Kings. at least to a couple. No comment, but we do expect to have Monty on probably Monday, and that's completely up to them. If they want to comment, great. If they don't want to do a tit for tat, I totally get that too. But the Kings have said, hey, here's what we're saying. We've repeatedly offered him a max deal. We offered him a max deal multiple times, and that's a fact.
That's true, yeah.
But with all the confusion and all the emotions out there, I can only tell you what happened, and you choose to feel a certain way about it. De'Aaron Fox coming into the final year of his deal next year. The Kings offered him a max deal. He wanted to pause on that max deal for two reasons. Number one, if he made All-NBA this year, it's a lot more money. There's no financial incentive. He's taking a small risk if he got like a catastrophic injury, but for the most part, the smart thing would be to hold out. But the other thing was a message he sent to the team, which was, guys, I want to be here, but we need more. They've gotten DeRozan and Keegan Murray and DeMonte. It's not like they've sat on their hands. But you go from a first-round playoff team back to a play-in team, and then going into the season, it's like, okay, well, we took a step backward last year. I just want to make sure we're not taking more steps backward. This is the only leverage I really have for you to improve the team. So you want me to sign the deal? I want to sign the deal, but I need you to show me something. You had the incident last year that we've talked about before that really pissed him off, where media was asking, where is De'Aaron Fox after a couple of tough losses? And he didn't appreciate that. He felt he and the other players were kind of left out to dry when it's Kings PR that decides who goes out and speaks. He never once said, I'm not going to talk to the media, but that was the portrayal. You see that pattern a little bit with the Mike Brown situation as well. He felt a little bit left out to dry. In the end, when you have the combination of Mike Brown, the way that was handled, the fact that the team was not performing this year, the fact that they were still lacking depth, lacking bigs, he did not feel ultimately the trust in the organization that they were going. He did not trust them to create a stable contender. I hope he's wrong. But that was, after 7 years in the league, that was his determination that this franchise was not capable enough or stable enough to give him and his teammates a shot at winning the title over the next 4 or 5 years.
Insightful stuff from Carmichael Dave there. I think it's helpful for De'Aaron to clear the air a little bit and go public with his perspective, really, on just kind of how this all went down and what led us to this point where he didn't technically request a trade from the team, but eventually was over it and ready to get out of there after it's really accumulation, as you hear there, of the 7.5 years that he spent on this team and eventually getting to that point. So we're going to dive into some of my reactions from that, things that I heard, like I said, the weeks leading up, days since, yesterday, blah, blah, blah. A little bit later in the show, because we got some guests to get to here. We got Brian Kalbraski joining the show here after this next segment. Wrote a great piece on newest King, Jake LaRavia, his season, what led to the point where Memphis eventually moved on from him, and them not picking up his fourth-year option that has him leading to an interesting unrestricted free agency here this offseason. So we'll get to the De'Aaron stuff a little bit later here, but going to dive into Jake LaRavia here with Brian Kalbraski on the other side. So stay tuned for that. Brendan Nunez here on Sacktown Sports 1140.
Saturday night, Kings and Pelicans. Team night with Scott Marsh and the high flyer Henry Turner starts at 5:30. Tip off at 7.
The Kings play here on Sacktown Sports.
Sacktown Sports 1140.
At Fisher Investments, we may seem like other money managers, but we're different.
Are you really that different than the rest of us?
We are. As a fiduciary, we always focus on what's best for our clients.
What services do you offer besides investing?
We have a team of specialists in financial planning, estate planning, and more.
Your clients rely on you for all that?
Yes, we ensure clients receive unparalleled service at every step of the relationship.
Okay, but you still sell commission-based products, right?
No, because we believe that's a conflict of interest. We prioritize service over sales goals.
So then how do your fees work?
We have a simple and transparent fee that's a percentage of our clients' portfolios. So we do better when our clients do better.
Wow, we're more different than I thought.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at fisherinvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Sherry, what have you done to your hair?
What do you mean? Does it not look good?
It doesn't look good. It looks freaking amazing. I can't believe how thick and healthy it looks. Oh, I must know your secret.
No secret. It's hair volume from New Nordic.
Hair volume, huh? Well, it certainly lives up to its name. Your hair has never looked so thick. It is gorgeous.
I was so tired of having thin and brittle hair. Ugh, and the shedding. So I figured I'd give hair volume a try. Needless to say, I'm thrilled with the results. Hey, where are you going?
I'm going to pick up some hair volume right now. My reunion's next month and I want my hair to look as good as yours.
Hair Volume is the best-selling hair tablet in the world and one of many award-winning natural health products from New Nordic, the #1 supplier of dietary supplements in Scandinavia. Purchase at newnordicusa.com or your local CVS. Available as a tablet or delicious gummy. Help your hair look full, voluminous, and beautiful again at newnordicusa.com or CVS.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. And now save 50% on the new Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Plus free home delivery when you add a base. Ends Monday. Exclusively at a Sleep Number store near you. Learn more at sleepnumber.com.
When you bundle renters and auto with Progressive, you can save while protecting your most valuable possessions, like your really expensive limited edition sneakers and your new suit for your cousin's wedding. Except you never actually bought the suit because you can't stop buying sneakers. So you show up to the wedding looking like you're going grocery shopping. But hey, at least your sneakers will look good in the pictures. Until you're cropped out of every last one of them. So go ahead and get Progressive, so you can save while protecting the things that matter to you. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates and other insurers. Not available in all states or situations.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. And now save 50% on the new Sleep Number limited edition smart bed. Plus free home delivery when you add a base. Ends Monday. Exclusively at a Sleep Number store near you. Learn more at sleepnumber.com.
Hey, I got you something. What's this? Just a little Galentine's gift from JTV.
Do you mean jewelry television? I love their jewelry. They have the
New customers get $25 off their first purchase of $75 or more. Visit jtv.com/romance.
Yeah, their artisan collections. Gorgeous.
Are you going to open your gift?
Oh, yeah. It's the pearl bracelet.
New customers receive $25 off their first purchase of $75 or more. Visit jtv.com/romance.
Discover unbeatable value at Folsom Buick GMC this President's Day. Drive with assurance and our 20-year, 200,000-mile powertrain warranty. Enjoy $10,000 off all 2024 Hummer EVs, plus 0% APR for 60 months for qualified buyers. Lease the 2025 Hummer EV for just $818 per month. These offers end March 3rd, 2025. Visit Folsom Buick GMC today, your EV headquarters for power, performance, and savings. Select units and check dealer for details.
Serious accident. You deserve the law offices of Jeremy Winter. 877-637-3237. Jeremy lost his mother in a car accident and knows firsthand the pain caused by tragedy. That is why he became an attorney to fight for others who are going through a tragedy. If you've been seriously injured in an accident, you deserve more. You deserve better. You deserve Jeremy Winter. 877-637-3237.
Hi, I'm Justin Gingery. One of the most common questions I receive is what makes us different from other law firms. At Gingery, Hammer & Associates, we handle your case from beginning to end. Whether your case reaches a settlement, whether we need to file suit, or even take it all the way to trial, we will be with you along the entire way. And because we are committed to you and your case, we are as invested as you are in making sure you get the outcome you deserve. If you have an injury, Just call Gingery.
How about you try something new this year? A resolution to enjoy what you drive. And the only way to guarantee that is at Sacramento Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. And it's not just because they're centrally located right across from Hagan Oaks Golf Course or their huge selection of new and pre-owned vehicles. It's because their general manager, Chuck Dean, and this team, they really take the time to get to know you and your goals. To them, it's not just about a car sale. It's about building generational relationships with someone you can trust. That's why people come from all over, Folsom, Elk Grove, Woodland, Roseville, because Sacramento Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, it's where a handshake still means something.
Hey, it's Carmichael Dave coming to you from a good friends at American Energy. Look, it's already cold outside. It's only going to get colder. American Energy wants to help you stay warm and make sure your system is operating safely. So right now is the time to take advantage of the $49 tune-up inspection. Normally $119, $49 right now, and that includes a full safety and duct inspection. And check it out. If your system's over 10 years old, and I'll bet it is, the tune-up, yeah, it's free. It's free from a company that's been in business since 1981, serving the greater Sacramento area. A+ Better Business Bureau. Check their Yelp, check their Google reviews. Don't take my word for it. Give them a call right now. $50 off your first recommended repair. If you need a new furnace, half off the price of a new unit. Check them out at theaeway.com and tell them Carmichael Dave sent you.
Call 916-520-9998 now.
I was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean when it happened. There was a sudden jolt and our submarine crashed on the seafloor. We were in total darkness.
That's Dr. Dejana Figueroa, a marine biologist and STEM teacher, talking about a deep sea dive she'll never forget.
It's funny, when I was a kid, I was afraid of the ocean. And there I was, 2 miles below the surface. But as a scientist, you prepare for that. Using our training and a little creativity, we fixed the sub and finished our experiments. The dive was just too important. Every dive gives us glimpses at things few people ever get to see. Glowing creatures, fiery undersea volcanoes. When we got back to the surface, I kissed the ground and called my mom, of course. But you know what? I wouldn't trade that dive for anything.
Dr. Figueroa uses her passion for STEM to discover new things and make the world a better place. She can STEM, so can you. Check out She Can STEM for more stories and inspiration. A message from the Ad Council.
Hurry in and save big during Honda's President's Day sales event at Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Hurry in and save on our best selection of new Hondas. Each is priced to sell now. Folsom Lake Honda is your one-stop Honda shop for great pricing on a giant selection of new CRVs, HRVs, Civics, and Accords with low finance and lease options. Plus, get an instant cash offer for your trade. Get to Folsom Lake Honda or go to FolsomLakeHonda.com.
Folsom Lake Honda, yeah, your one-stop Honda shop.
Hey, it's time to pull up your calendar app. The Sacktown Sports Live Events calendar is packed with must-see shows. Get ready for Miles Kennedy at Ace of Spades on February 18th, a night of pure vocal power and killer guitar work. Then on March 8th, the Fists Fly at Thunder Showdown Boxing at Thunder Valley, where every punch could be a knockout. On March 15th, the legendary Steel Panther brings their high-energy hair metal madness to Ace of Spades. This one's going to be wild. And the next night, country fans get their fix as Alexandra Kay takes the stage at Ace of Spades on March 16th with her soulful vocals and heartfelt songs. Then March 29th, it's a doubleheader. Papa Roach and Rise Against tear up Golden One Center for a night of high-energy rock. And over at Hard Rock Live Sacramento, comedy legends Jay Leno and Arsenio Hall team up for an unforgettable night of laughs. Tickets are going fast, so don't wait. Get all the details at SacktownSports.com.
Twin Peaks is the best in the game. Here, it's bigger game days and bolder fight nights. I mean, where else can you find a scratch kitchen that always comes in clutch every day from lunch to late night? Only at Twin Peaks, the #1 sports bar.
KHTK HD1 Sacramento, KYMX HD3 Sacramento. From the Power Business Technology Toshiba Studios.
Sacktown Sports, 1140. The only station in Sacramento giving you local sports coverage from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Sacktown Sports.
Welcome back here. Brendan Nunez filling in for Alan Stiles. Anthony behind the glass here on Sacktown Sports 1140. The Kings trading for Jake LaRavia at the deadline yesterday from the Memphis Grizzlies. and saw a great piece leading up to the deadline here on USA Today, talking about Jake LaRavia, how we got to this point, written by Brian Kalbraski, and figured I'd reach out and have Brian join us here on the show. I think he's on the line here now. Brian Kalbraski from USA Today here. Like I said, just wrote a great piece on Jake LaRavia. Brian, thanks for joining us, man. How are you doing here and staying alive post-trade deadline? Oh, maybe losing Brian here.
I'll try and call him back. He should be on the line.
Cool. We'll try and get that figured out. But yeah, the Kings end up acquiring Jake LaRavia in a trade with the Memphis Grizzlies yesterday. Again, did it right at the deadline and ended up the deal was pretty cheap from the Kings' perspective for details that we will continue to get into here. But it was Alex Len, Colby Jones, and a second-round pick in a 3-team deal here that ended up clearing out some space for the Memphis Grizzlies. And I'm being told that we got Brian on the line here now. Brian Kalbraski, again, wrote a great piece about Jake LaRavia leading up to the deadline on USA Today. Brian, thanks for joining us, man. How you doing? Surviving post-deadline?
Yeah, I'm doing well. I thought that I was well-rested until I realized that I had my mute on while I was talking to you. So maybe need a little bit more sleep than I could have gotten based off of that initial conversation. But glad to be here and appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely relatable over here. You know, a few more ums and likes than I'd like, but we're all dealing with a little bit of a short rest as this deadline's all going on here. But an interesting situation with Jake LaRavia and Memphis after they selected him at the 19th pick in the 2022 NBA draft. First 2 years, he's kind of dealing with injuries a lot. The team elects to decline his 4th-year team option on that rookie deal, leaving him headed into unrestricted free agency this year. But do you mind laying out, kind of like you did in the article a bit, what you saw as the changes for Jake coming into this year that helped him develop and progress into another caliber of player to the point where obviously Sacramento was interested enough to go out and acquire him?
Right. So when the Grizzlies were originally targeting Jake LaRavia in the 2022 NBA draft, one of the things that they were looking for was the versatility that they could use to find ideal role players to complement John Morant. So they were finding players who could do things beyond scoring, and that's how they identified a few of the players that they picked. You know, guys who were productive in college, that were able to rebound at a high level, pass at a high level for their position, get steals, get blocks, and when they did score, they scored efficiently. And Jake is someone who checked all 3 of those boxes for them during their evaluation process. Unfortunately, he did deal with injuries during both his first season and his second season in the NBA. And after that, they decided not to pick up a team option. I think Harry Giles went through something fairly similar in Sacramento. I don't remember when that would have been at this point, but Sacramento fans might remember a similar situation where after 2 years, the team option was not picked up. So instead of going into free agency the following year, potentially as a restricted free agent, Jake becomes an unrestricted free agent. So Memphis had a decision to make, which was essentially, do they hold on to Jake right now, or do they trade him for value while he's still under contract for the remainder of the year, knowing that he would have been a free agent at the season's end? The problem for Memphis is that he was actually providing a decent amount of positive impact on the court when he was playing, and that then was kind of taking some minutes from some of their players who were promising for guys like Gigi Jackson, Vince Williams, and a few of the other prospects on the team who, you know, also kind of wanted to get to rotation too. And they had a deep rotation, and so it was a way of condensing themselves for sure, but also extracting some value for a player who I think they had decided this wasn't going to necessarily fit in their tighter playoff rotation. When they had 10, 11, 12 guys playing, it was no problem. But if we're going to go 8 or 9 in the playoffs, maybe he would have been 8 or 9, and they had a lot of depth. So they were able to extract some value from Sacramento. But Sacramento gets a player who I think can fit in a myriad of ways and provide legitimate value on both ends of the floor without necessarily needing the ball in his hands. You know, making those hustle plays, diving for loose balls, getting deflections, getting boards, and shooting well. I mean, he's got real size at his position, and he's shooting 44% three-pointers this season. Cuts well to the rim, and is just a generally valuable basketball player. You're not going to see a lot of players run for him, but you're going to see him probably affect net rating and win it in a positive way. And that's what coaches told me. That's what John Morant told me. That's what every teammate told me. And it's kind of the universal theme is, he might end up a box score with 4, 6, 7 points, but he'll have a lot of winning plays that are one of the reasons why the Grizzlies were towards the top of the standings.
Absolutely. You see why it makes sense from both sides as you lay it out there. If you don't mind, I want to dive more into, obviously the Kings have had a need for a wing forward for years now. I mean, it might be borderline decades that they've needed more wing forward depth on this roster, and LaRavia obviously filling that 6'7", 6'8". You mentioned him doing the little things, being able to be productive without the ball. It's all easy to see how that fits in really in any team, but obviously in this Sacramento specific circumstance as well. The Kings are a team that desperately needs some defense specifically at that position. You mentioned LaRavia's potential two-way impact and doing a lot of little things that I think, again, will help this group. But what have your impressions been of what he can provide in the caliber of defensive player that you feel like Jake LaRavia is?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't think you're going to have him lock down your number one player on the opposing team. And he'll probably mostly appear in bench units, which, I think with the starting five the U.S. develop is going to be pretty solidified without him in it because, obviously there is a lot of talent now with Levine and DeRozan and Sabonis and Monk and Murray, who clearly kind of are the five right now. I think the biggest question mark is probably, what the point guard position looks like. Jake's not going to be playing point guard, so he'll probably be coming off the bench, maybe getting some spot starts, but he didn't make any starting appearances for the Grizzlies this year. That being said, among all players who have not made an appearance in starting lineup this NBA season, in win shares, he currently ranks second in the NBA behind only Peyton Pritchard, who's the Vegas favorite 2-6 man of the year. Obviously, building some depth on the bench and being able to kind of play in those second units and run hard is really important. One of Jake's biggest things is just pointing down the court. Memphis plays really fast. Sacramento's pace is sort of actually, even though they had Fox, closer to the middle of the pack. I'd be curious to see if it dips or goes higher, depending on what the new look offense looks like without Fox in it. But Jake is somebody who, when he doesn't have the ball, he's sprinting up and down the floor. I think that he literally has the fastest average miles per hour on offense of any high-volume player in the NBA this year. He's not going to be a track star by any stretch, but he's hustling. And he's somebody who, will make those hard cuts to the basket. I think he's 17 for 19 on cutting attempts so far this season. So, on those easy runners towards the basket, he's putting them in efficiently. And yeah, when he's open from three, he's hitting them. He's not going to be the flashiest player. Sometimes it might even look a little bit goofy, but at the end of the day, he is somebody who I think you can count on for potential playoff minutes. He's still only 23, even though he did multiple years in college. And he is somebody who I think is healthy right now. He changed his diet a lot, hired a chef, started working more on yoga, getting more limber. The classic things you hear about in the off season, but he's been healthier this year. And I think just with him having those consistent minutes with Memphis and head coach Taylor Jenkins, he's going to be able to have a role and a new opportunity. And I think he's excited about it. I think he knew that in Memphis, once they didn't pick up his team option, they probably didn't view him as part of the future. I think that Sacramento is going to want to re-sign him because all 30 teams could have signed Jake LaRavia this summer if he become a free agent. And he still will be entering free agency, but Sacramento decided to give up assets to get the first look at him. I think that says something about their interest in him and their interest in potentially keeping him around long term and filling a positional need in the wing forward position. I think that realistically, he should come at a pretty fair value, maybe in 9 to 12 a year range would be just my initial guess. The team option he had would have been for $5 million, maybe a 2 or 3 year deal. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. I think it will depend on what he does in Sacramento. If it doesn't really work with Doug Christie and McNair looks at it and says, hey, I don't really love what I'm seeing out of it, there's a gamble that they let him walk and it wasn't too big of a deal. Just a few months of games, they're trying free agency. But I think if he ends up playing as part of a team in a playoff rotation that maybe wins the series, he'll have earned a new contract to make him a valuable part of that core.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Bobby Marks laid out a little bit that it's a unique situation with obviously Memphis declining that fourth-year team option, like you mentioned, that the maximum Sacramento can sign him for this offseason as a free agent is about $5.16 million, making it an interesting situation as he plays out the rest of the year here in Sacramento and hopefully productive in the way that you mentioned. Last question for you as we get you out of here, Brian Kalbraski of USA Today here joining us. What are just your general impressions, as a whole, very vague, sort of thrown at your direction, but of just what the Kings did this deadline, moving on from De'Aaron Fox, Jonas Valanciunas, obviously Jake LaRavia here as well, with the main focus that we have with you, but curious your point of view from sort of the outside here on just what Sacramento did in general and their direction going forward here.
It's complicated. They're a team that I feel I have the most variance about how this could go. I think they got Jonas particularly at a pretty good price, didn't have to surrender very much. I think that if Devin Carter finds his form, they do have a solid backcourt with Monk and Carter moving forward. I think Levine had gone from maybe being overrated to very, very underrated as the Chicago situation kind of got a little bit murkier and uglier. I think he can return more positive value on that than people expected. And I think that realistically, even though the picks weren't as great as I would have liked to have seen them returning for Fox, I think it was nice of them to do right by him, to send him to a franchise that he wanted to play for. Unlike, when Portland sent Bam to Milwaukee instead of Miami. I think that it says a lot about the organization to know that they were willing to at least kind of work with him on that. Obviously would have loved for Sacramento to have received maybe some of the younger assets from San Antonio, to potentially even flip those into more of a win now piece, as they're clearly trying to win. But ultimately, Sacramento wasn't, or San Antonio wasn't really willing to part with that. Sacramento wasn't really able to get any of that. So they got somebody they think they can help win now with somebody like Zach LaVine, who I think can, could return pretty much immediate value this season for a team that's looking to contend. I don't know if I see them making it out of the first round if they do make it out of the play-in. But I do know that, for a team that's hoping to compete, they should at least be competitive. And, under Christie, who had been playing well, with his beginning of his tenure, they should be an interesting team to watch. And I'm very curious to see how it goes because, when you trade your franchise cornerstone, you assume that probably starts to look to tank, where it's like, it's the Rosen next, it's the bonus next. That's not what they're doing. They traded the franchise cornerstone, and they can kind of keep contending, which is at least something that fans can hang their hat on a bit.
Yeah, a little bit of an atypical route here from the Kings, but appreciate you hopping on here. Brian Kalbraski, again from USA Today, wrote a great piece on Jake LaRavia and just what led to his eventual trade from the Memphis Grizzlies, and appreciate you joining us here, laying out what he could provide to Sacramento.
Thank you.
Great stuff from Brian there. We'll dive into it more here after the break, what I think that Jake LaRavia can bring to this team. The Kings finally getting their wing and where he may fit into this roster. Going to dive into that more here on the other side. Happy to hear your guys' opinions, of course, whether that's YouTube chat, callers, text line 916-339-1140. Let us know what you think of Jake LaRavia and the Kings deadline moves as a whole. We'll dive into it more here on the other side. Brendan Nunez, Sacktown Sports, 1140.
All guests and callers join us from the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Saturday night, Kings and Pelicans. Team night with Scott Marsh and the high flyer Henry Turner starts at 5:30. Tip-off at 7.
The Kings play here on Sacktown Sports.
Sacktown Sports, 1140.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million+ products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Ooh, ma. What was that?
That is business phone bliss with the Ooma cloud phone system. It handles all our voice, video, and messaging needs.
You sound very
calm. I am. Ooma has everything I need to run my business more efficiently, like virtual receptionist, call routing, and video conferencing. And it starts at just $19.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Nice. Find your business calm at ooma.com/radio.
Live and local, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. Sacktown Sports.
Brendan Nunez here filling in for Alan Stiles on Sacktown Sports, taking you up till 1 p.m. And we'll have Jay fill in for an hour as I head over to the Jonas Valanciunas introductory press conference. And Jay will take you straight into the Drive Guys as well here. But we just had Brian Kalbraski on from USA Today, who broke down just what went down with Jake LaRavia in Memphis and his eventual exit as he was traded to the Sacramento Kings. Going to take some callers here as we, just get the fan base's opinion a little bit on everything that's been going on here, deadline production and all of that. We're going to go to Louis here joining us who wants to chime in on some of the moves that the Kings made here. What's on your mind, Louis? Thanks for joining us.
Hey, how's it going, man? Yeah, this is Louis. Hey, I know we're talking about acquisitions right now, but I kind of wanted to call in and comment on the Fox and Carmichael Dave conversation that he had. I know you guys have moved past it.
No, you're good.
But I wanted to say, man, all respect to Carmichael Dave. I know he's been a fan for years, but realistically, that was a soft body conversation that he had with Fox. I mean, he wants to ask the media all the tough questions when it comes to Monte, but many of the tough questions that need to be answered. It's kind of a one-sided conversation. I mean, you could tell what side of the argument Carmichael Dave's on. Yeah, he tries to say he doesn't have an opinion. In my opinion, De'Aaron's doing some damage control. He's got some shoes he's got to sell. The bottom line is De'Aaron Fox quit on the fans. He engineered the trade with the Spurs. It's all bad with Fox when it comes to me. He's getting the boo on March 7th. Appreciate you. Have a good one.
Yeah, thanks for chiming in, Louis. I guess my question there would be, like, what do you want Dave to sort of ask De'Aaron or anybody else sort of speaking to him throughout this process in that situation? Like the, thought of De'Aaron claiming like he didn't ask out, right? I think it's become pretty clear, like technically he did not, right? But sort of made it clear to the organization that like the plan was he was probably going to get out of here this offseason, that after Mike Brown was let go, as De'Aaron said, the writing was on the wall from that point on. I think that is personally, I think that's understandable. And I may be playing into what you're saying of you feel like media are taking De'Aaron's side more in all of this. But as I said, when I was on with them this morning, I kind of feel like De'Aaron had a built up frustration with this team for 7+ years and eventually was over it. And it was in a situation where he got to control his destiny a little bit. I feel like it's very normal for players to have a destination in mind. And I would agree that Fox is doing, I guess you could call it damage control for sure throughout this whole process. But I think that the clarity is appreciated to an extent. And it's almost like I feel like it's a messy breakup going on here, because that press conference that Monty McNair had, it felt like a lot of finger pointing of saying, hey, De'Aaron put us in a tough spot. And now you have De'Aaron coming out and saying, well, the organization put me in a tough spot. And so I feel like I can see both sides here to an extent. But again, I think it's understandable. A guy that didn't have control over his NBA outlook for 7 years finally gets an opportunity to, and he decides to go to an organization where he can be hands off and be like, hey, I trust these guys to make the right decision. And it obviously got to the point where he didn't feel like he could do that in Sacramento. And I felt like from the fans' frustration leading up to the deadline and everything that kind of happened, I thought the fans were on the same page with being frustrated with the organization. And I feel like that's where De'Aaron's coming from. So a bit interesting to me. It's a tricky situation, I think, to kind of balance here. But messy in general, like I said, it feels like a little bit of a breakup, and both sides are trying to just tell their 2 cents here. But gonna continue going through the phone lines here. We got Brandon who wants to chime into the conversation as well. What's going on, Brandon? Thanks for calling in. What's on your mind, man?
What's going on, guys? Hey, so De'Aaron's not walking through the tunnel anymore, so I'm kind of just moving forward. But I had 2 questions for you guys. Maybe you could help me out with. One, could you quickly go over what draft picks we do have now? And then B, what do you do with Keegan Murray? I mean, he's been a primary defender. It seems like some of his games taken a decline. Do you guys see him anywhere near a max deal contract, or how do you move forward with his contract moving forward?
Yeah, thanks for calling in, Brandon. I'm going to have to find somewhere in my notes here as I try to sort through what draft capital they own. Okay, here we go. So got 3 first-round picks technically in the De'Aaron Fox deal and 3 second-round picks. Now, the Charlotte 2025 pick is expected to turn into 2 second-rounders in this deal as well. It's a 2025 first that's lottery protected. Charlotte still in the teens and wins is going to be a lottery team. So that's going to turn into 2026 and 2027 seconds. The Kings do still have, after making these trades, again, I think that there was a logic that moving De'Aaron Fox needed to be the first step here. That way they did have this capital specifically in the draft available to them to make some of these other roster balancing moves. They still have the 2027 San Antonio unprotected first that they got in the Fox deal, and I think the gem of the deal outside of Zach LaVine, a 2031 Minnesota unprotected first-round pick. And there's a handful of second rounders in here as well. They have sent out 3 second rounders in the deals to acquire Jonas Valanciunas, 2 for that, and 1 second rounder to get Jake LaRavia. So don't have full clarity on which second rounders were sent out in all of those deals quite yet. I'm sure we'll get that here over the next coming days. But essentially, the Kings still have 2 future firsts, one from the Spurs in 27 and one from Minnesota in 2031, along with their future first rounders from 27 on. Again, the 2025 pick this year is top 12 protected, owed to Atlanta, top 10 protected in 2026. So you're not able to move on from those ones due to the Stepien rule applying there. But that leaves 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 future first round picks. Not all of those could be traded straight up, obviously. I've gotten up to, if you're talking a really just like mother load package, you get to 4 firsts, 2 swaps, and now we're dealing with 3 second round picks. So those are sort of the assets that are still remaining after this deal. Anthony, do you remember the other part of his question here as I
was going to ask you. I think, no, I can't remember the other part of his question. We spent too much time. I was looking at the draft capital.
Yeah, same here. Apologies, Brandon, for the second part of your question there, but I hope I did an all right job laying out what's still remaining here. And I think that, you know, the eventual plan will be to make another big swing. And maybe that means that you're including DeMar DeRozan's contract in a deal this offseason, but they have the draft capital to try and make another big swing down the line. And to me, just, you know, reading the tea leaves and in my mind, just what makes sense, I think that's eventually the direction that you could see them go in here. Gonna get some more callers here. Appreciate everybody joining the conversation here as well. We got Will on the line who wants to join the conversation. Will, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind, man?
What's up, man? You sound like a couple of young dudes. So let me talk to y'all.
What you got, man?
Man, hey, this whole Fox thing, man. People see, I've been miserable, you know, on the Kings deal, man, for years, man. I go back to when they lost, when the league robbed them, when they should have beat the Lakers back in 2003. Look, here's the deal. Fox, he's 27, right?
Yep.
Fox is 27. He's been here 7 years, due the battles, due the struggles. Here's the bottom line. And then I have another little comment. It'll be fast. But anyway, the dude been through the battles, the struggles with the Kings for 7 years, okay? He has an opportunity. This is what people ain't getting to. They complaining about Fox. He didn't guarantee to be with the Kings for life. Here's the deal. The dude got a chance to go play with the Avatar, man. The alien, the 8-foot dude. You know what I'm saying? He's 27. Wemby is what, 20? Wemby, what, 20?
Yeah, something like that. I'm with you, Will. I think anybody in Fox's shoes, like, how are you not tempted by that, right?
That's what I'm saying. Nobody with any common sense would pass that up. Wemby gonna be the dominant center in the league probably for the next 7-8 years. I mean, all the other guys getting old, they getting beat up. You know, my man with Philly, my man with Milwaukee. I mean, these guys, their times is gonna be running out. Who's gonna be the man in the NBA for the next 7, 8, 9 years? It's gonna be Wemby. It's gonna be Wemby. Fox, he know he ain't gonna get no title in Sacktown. You know, we Kings fans, we love the Kings. We love the Kings. But how can anybody complain that this guy is going to play with Wemby? Well, he left the Kings, man. He just, man, come on, hey, you know this. You know, if you had that opportunity and your other guy in the studio had that opportunity, what would you do?
I'm for sure going to San Antonio. And like, if I hear the team is trying to trade me, I'm certainly going to go out there and be like, hey, this is where I want to go.
And you know who gave him a hard time? He just, I mean, your boy Stiles, man, he just real Fox, man. I say, Stiles, man, look, I sent him a couple texts in. I say, Stiles, come on, man. The guy, 7 years. Think about it. He's been here 7 years. What have the Kings done to improve the players around us? We've been saying the Kings need wings, athletic wings, forever. They never get the guys. And then last thing, you know Jalen Wells with Memphis, right?
Yep, Sacramento guy.
6'8". He start with Memphis. He guards the best scorers on the other team. I saw him guard Ant-Man twice. Okay, now here we go. We can't even our local talent we let get away. You know, Folsom High School, Washington State. We didn't see that talent. He's 6'8". Okay, he's 6'8". And then one other guy. Oh, Jaleel Ware.
Khalil Ware. Yep.
Khalil Ware. We passed. We picked Devin Carter. And I knew about this guy when he was at Indiana. I knew he was an athletic 7-foot guy. Man, we don't get guys, you know. And then and last thing. I know you guys.
One more quick one for you, Will. We got to get out of here in a sec.
Last thing. We passed on Steph in the draft. We passed on Clay in the draft. We passed on Luka in the draft. Case closed. You know what I'm saying? I'll talk to you guys later.
Absolutely. Appreciate you calling in, Will. I thought it's a refreshing perspective to hear there's some Kings fans that understand where De'Aaron is coming from here. You know, feel how you want on either side. I see we're a little torn here in the chat, but going to continue to dive into it. I know, obviously, that's what people want to talk about. We're down to talk about the De'Aaron drama, I guess you'd call it, whether you want to talk about the new additions, whatever. Feel free to call in. Joey, we see you here. We'll get to you on the other side. Happy to take calls, YouTube chat, text 916-339-1140 here. We're going to get more into the conversation and take callers as they come in here on Sacktown Sports 1140. Brendan Nunez here. Stay tuned on the other side.
Are you 50 or older? This news is for you. The CDC now recommends you get vaccinated against pneumococcal pneumonia. Even if you're healthy, your age puts you at risk. People 50 or older are over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia compared to adults 18 to 49. Just one shot can help protect you. Learn more and schedule at vaxassist.com. That's VAXassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
Whoa, it's you, the Capital One Bank guy.
That's what they call me.
Mind if I get a selfie?
Yeah, sure thing. Say no fees or minimums on your Capital One checking account.
Wow, that's a keeper. So, where are you heading?
I'm off to spread the good news that Capital One helps people keep more money in their wallet with no overdraft fees.
Oh, you're the best Capital One Bank guy.
Hey, mind if I get a selfie?
Sure.
Say, Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One NA, member FDIC.
The PGA Club fitters at the Hagen Oaks Player Performance Studio know that golf should be fun. They also know that players of all abilities will hit the ball farther and straighter, play better golf, shoot lower scores, and have more fun if they get fitted before they purchase golf clubs. Hagen Oaks delivers the same technology and major brands used to fit PGA and LPGA professionals.
See how the game can be even more fun. Hagen Oaks Player Performance Studio fittings are available 7 days a week. Make yours today by calling 916-808-2531. That's 808-2531.
Okay, guys, who is done with their Valentine's Day shopping? What are you waiting for? Stop putting off your Valentine's Day shopping and go to Prestigio Jewelers today.
She's right. Prestigio Jewelers has everything you need for Valentine's this year. And you're approved guaranteed. No credit, bad credit, even bankruptcy? 6 months proof of income guarantees you a credit line of $400 to $10,000. Time is running out. Make this a Valentine's Day she'll never forget. Visit one of our showrooms today or online at prestigiojewelers.com.
Fall head over boots in love with music this Valentine's Day. Get ready for Sacramento's premier country music festival, Country in the Park, returning May 16th and 17th at Cal Expo with Bailey Zimmerman, Billy Currington, and more. Enjoy food trucks, mechanical bulls, and line dancing. Tickets start at just $52. Visit CITPfest.com. Brought to you by Hyatt Vacation Club. Don't just say, I love you. Show it with music. Buy tickets now.
This 49er Injury Report is brought to you by Jeremy Winter, attorney at law. He cares because he's been there. After an injury-plagued 2024 season, which ended 6-11 and out of the playoffs, the 49ers will focus on getting healthy in the offseason. Running backs Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, and Isaac Guerrero all suffered season-ending injuries. Left tackle Trent Williams' ankle kept him out late in the year, and Brock Purdy missed the season finale with a hurt elbow. 49ers hope to enter 2025 with a full roster back intact.
Serious accident. You deserve the law offices of Jeremy Winter. 877-637-3237. Jeremy lost his mother in a car accident and knows firsthand the pain caused by tragedy. That is why he became an attorney to fight for others who are going through a tragedy. If you've been seriously injured in an accident, you deserve more. You deserve better. You deserve Jeremy Winter. 877-637-3237.
The sewer system. It's probably the last thing on your mind, and that's okay. Because at the Sacramento Area Sewer District, it's our first priority. As the region's largest sewer utility, we own and maintain thousands of miles of sewer pipe. And our job is to get to your sewer problem before it interrupts your life. So whether you've got a slow drain or a backup, call us first, day or night. The Sacramento Area Sewer District. It's a dirty job, but we're happy to do it.
Only one radio program captures the excitement of hunting and fishing as it happens. The award-winning California Sportsman with Sepp Hendrickson. Only California Sportsman takes you where the action is. Live on the water, live in the blind, and live with the top pros and experts in outdoor sports. California Sportsman with Fishing Hall of Famer Sepp Hendrickson is your premier destination for all things outdoors. Sepp's Saturday Morning Outdoors. Ultimate Bass and California Sportsman, 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. Saturdays on Sacktown Sports 1140.
The only station in Sacramento giving you local sports coverage from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Sacktown Sports.
Brendan Nunez filling in for Alan Stiles here as he's who knows where. Where in the world is Alan Stiles? Did you ever play that, Alan? The Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? I might be.
No, I played it a little bit. I think you are dating yourself.
A little bit.
But I definitely had an older computer. You know, my mom was a teacher.
Okay, exactly.
I played it.
Yeah, for sure. Not sure where Alan Stiles is, but not here today. I'm filling in until 1 p.m. before I head out to the Jonas Valanciunas press conference. We'll have Jay Johnson taking over from 1 to 2 as we lead you into the drive, guys, at 4 p.m. And been taking callers here. Going to continue to do so. 916-339-1140. Feel free to chime in on the YouTube chat here as well. Text messages are always appreciated. Right now, though, we got Joey on the line, who I think wants to contribute to the conversation here. Joey, thanks for calling in, man. What's on your mind?
Thanks, Brandon. Appreciate being able to talk to you. Just real quick, just to piggyback on the last guy, 7 years. I mean, if you don't do anything in 7 years, then what are you doing? And you don't blame Fox for moving on to a champion pedigree type organization. They have a blueprint. They've seen it. They've done it before many times. I get it. As an athlete, you're competitive, and you're built different. And one of the things that you're built on is wanting to win. You're not maybe you are complacent, maybe you're not, but most athletes are competitive. I have a question for you though, Brandon. So these buyout contracts that after post trade deadline, how do they work? And so I saw on the list that like Marcus Smart was on there and whatnot. How come the Kings didn't jump on stuff like that? And how many roster spots are left? I'll take my answer off the air, and thanks for the call.
Yeah, appreciate you calling in, Joey. Again, it's refreshing to me to hear some Kings fans actually understand De'Aaron's perspective a little bit. Again, not trying to
rational.
Crazy.
Huh? So rational.
Like those exist. It's wild. I think the real issue is that I'm spending too much time on Twitter and hearing the vocal minority.
Yeah, I think most people are understanding of both sides.
Yeah, like we were just talking about it during the break, Anthony. Like I wonder what De'Aaron's reception is going to be when he comes back in March, if he plays for that game when the Spurs come to Golden One. Like he's probably he deserves and will probably get a huge standing ovation. I think that all this, there's going to be some fans in there that feel a type of way. Maybe it's a little bit of a mix, but I think for the most part, people probably feel like our last two callers. But like you asked there at the end, what the situation is with how many buyout candidates and open roster spots the Kings could potentially bring in. Right now, the Kings have 3 open roster spots after making all of these deals, and their two-way spots are filled up as well. I've said it a few times, but I'd expect rookie two-way big Isaac Jones to get converted to a full-time contract. He is rapidly approaching the mark that he can make or that he can play with Sacramento as a two-way player. So I would expect that they try and convert that contract, which will include a little bit of a pay bump for him. But the complicated situation here for Sacramento, while they do have these open spots, is that they're only about $2 to $3 million under the luxury tax line, a line that, we've heard pretty clearly that the team higher ups are trying to stay under. There's a beneficial aspect just from a business standpoint for them to be doing that. And that goes beyond the basketball side specifically, obviously. But these deals that you would be signing on buyouts are minimum deals, and they are all dependent on years of service. So the contract goes up based on how long a player has been in the league, which is what makes it a little bit more difficult for the Kings to try and fill these roster spots. Like I mentioned, Isaac getting a promotion to a guaranteed full roster deal will increase his pay. And you probably have room for like one more guy to go out there and try and get. And Marcus Smart has been in the league for a while. He'd be a more expensive buyout candidate, as you kind of mentioned there. I think that's why it would be a little bit more difficult for the Kings. And maybe the decision is after you promote Isaac that you try and find a way to go and fill that two-way spot. I think that we saw them do that when they moved on from Keon Ellis. I want to say it was Mason Jones that eventually was converted, if I'm remembering that right, into what became open two-way contract. So some flexibility somewhat here as the Kings have some spots, but financially sort of dealing with that tax line threshold that makes it hard for them to go above here as they continue to try to fill out the roster. But a starting group of Malik Monk, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan, Keegan Murray, Domantas Sabonis. You got your bench 5 of Devin Carter, Keon Ellis, Jake LaRavia now, Trey Lyles, Jonas Valanciunas just made his debut last night in the Moda Center in Portland. You still got Jay Crowder and Doug McDermott towards the end of the bench as well. And like I mentioned, two ways, Isaac Jones, Mason Jones. You're losing one of the Joneses in this process. I guess we could still call it keeping up with the Joneses if we're just watching 2 of them. Isaiah Crawford there as well. So a couple spots where they could try to do something, but I wouldn't expect it to be really much of a difference maker. I think you try and take a flyer on more of a young player and see if they can continue to develop after you get them in your system.
To be more specific about the salaries that they could get on a minimum, it starts with 0 years experience at around $1 million and goes up to 10 plus years to around $3.5 million.
Gotcha.
People wanted to get more specific about that.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for getting those numbers. I didn't have those in front of me right now, but yeah, based on years of service is how much you're going to end up paying these guys. And there's various ranges for each of those as well that you can find, but the Kings being about 2 to 3 mil under that tax line. Just keep in mind that is a line that we've been told they very much do want to stay under. And that's how this team is functioning. That's part of why, when Jonas Valanciunas is acquired, and it has to do with their TPE, they still had to stay below that tax line. You send out CD Sissoko in the deal. So that is a threshold that this front office has been working with for sure, and will continue to work with as we move forward here. And like people point out in the chat, Marcus Smart will probably go to a contender. I think that's part of it here, is that you saw the Boston Celtics free up 2 roster spots by trading Jaden Springer, and I think there's one other piece in there as well. Torrey Craig gets waived by the Chicago Bulls after they acquire Kevin Huerter, and other pieces in that deal with the Spurs, the 3-team deal that ends up swapping out Zach LaVine and De'Aaron Fox. And Torrey Craig instantly is like, well, I'm going to go to the team that won the championship last year. Like, these buyout guys are typically the, I don't know if this has a negative connotation, but like quote unquote ring chasers that are going to try to go to these advantageous situations for them. I know people don't love to hear it right now, but players have a little control in where they want to go, and you're probably going to want to go to a better team rather than a questionable situation. But Sacramento does have a benefit of, if there's an interesting wing out there, I think their plus is, hey, we could get a little bit more minutes for you than some of these other teams. So I think that is their leverage in some of these situations, as they continue to try and fill out the roster after swapping De'Aaron Fox for Zach LaVine and some draft capital. They get Jonas Valanciunas and add new wing forward 6'7", 6'8" Jake LaRavia from the Memphis Grizzlies here, trying to continue to trend upwards, sitting at 10th in the Western Conference post-trade deadline and trying to make a run for a competitive postseason. Would only be the second one in the past, 19 years now, with that original Beam team obviously being the standout there. So we'll see how this team is able to continue to progress. Happy to take more callers. If anybody else has anything, I'll dive into the chat here more on the other side. But 916-339-1140 for anybody that happens to want to chime in on the conversation. Got 1 or 2 more segments here before we probably end up closing up the phone lines. So be sure to get your thoughts in now. Happy to hear from you guys as we continue the show here. Brendan Nunez filling in for Alan Stiles here on Sacktown Sports.
On the move? Got somewhere to be?
Take Sacramento Kings basketball with you. The Sacktown Sports app will let you stay connected to your passion. Never miss a moment of Sacramento Kings basketball with the Sacktown Sports app.
Hurry in and save big during Honda's President's Day sales event at Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Hurry in and save on our best selection of new Hondas. Each is priced to sell now. Folsom Lake Honda is your one-stop Honda shop for great pricing on a giant selection of new CRVs, HRVs, Civics, and Accords with low finance and lease options. Plus, get an instant cash offer for your trade. Get to Folsom Lake Honda or go to FolsomLakeHonda.com.
Folsom Lake Honda, yeah, your one-stop Honda shop.
Hey, it's Capital Casino, Sacramento's #1 poker room, and the regular season is over, but the high hand bonuses, those are not. $500 per primetime football game, whether it's weekend, Monday night, whatever it may be. And those bonuses available until the season ends, including the big game on February 9th. Capital Casino, 411 North 16th Street in downtown Sacramento. For more information, log on to capital-casino.com. Please gamble responsibly. 1-800-GAMBLER.
Taxes was feeling so stuck. Sitting in traffic, squeezing into a parking spot, all to squeeze in getting tax help during your lunch break. Now Taxes is a TurboTax expert who does your taxes for you, while you go about your day getting real-time notifications about their progress and the most money back guaranteed. Now this is Taxes. Intuit TurboTax. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile apps. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. And now save 50% on the new Sleep Number Limited Edition Smart Bed. Plus free home delivery when you add a base. Ends Monday. Exclusively at a Sleep Number store near you. Learn more at sleepnumber.com. Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. And now save 50% on the new Sleep Number Limited Edition Smart Bed. Plus free home delivery when you add a base. Ends Monday. exclusively at a Sleep Number store near you. Learn more at sleepnumber.com.
Jackson Hewitt makes taxes feel like a yacht rock song.
Breeze, give me my biggest tax refund, please. You, me, and a lifetime accuracy guarantee.
And now get $100 just to try Jackson Hewitt. Does your tax person do that?
Say goodbye to that no guarantee tax guy.
Ready to sail through tax season? Go to Jackson Hewitt and you'll be
Reeling in the refund.
limited time offer for new clients. Participating locations only. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
Hi, this is Greg Papa. Disasters hit every day. If your home, business, or building has suffered from any disaster, SunPoint Public Adjusters can help. SunPoint prepares, presents, and negotiates your claim with the insurance company, working only for you, making sure you get everything you're entitled to and letting your focus be on what's most important, your family or your business. Call SunPoint today at 888-247-7865 or contact us at sunpoint.us. SunPoint Public Adjusters, the gold standard in public adjusting.
License number 2N14884.
Is your garage door stuck in the winter blues? Well, February is the perfect time to give it some love. Jason Ross here to tell you about the Overhead Door Company of Sacramento. And they're here to keep your garage door running smoothly. This February, they're spreading the love with their Sweetheart Special, $150 off a garage door with the purchase of a garage door opener. Now, the experts at Overhead Door Company of Sacramento provide fast, reliable service that's always on time and always done right. From squeaky hinges to full door replacements, they've got you covered. So don't let your garage door be the heartbreaker this season. Visit overheaddoorofsacramento.com for your free estimate. You can get in touch with them at 916-421-3747. Overhead Door Company of Sacramento, opening doors to your home and your hearts this February and all throughout the year. Overhead Door Company of Sacramento, the genuine, the original overhead door. Always look for the red ribbon logo.
Listen for the Toyota Tahoe Report every Thursday, Friday, and Saturday with Johnny Mosley to get the latest weather conditions in Tahoe throughout this snow season. Brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. Toyota, let's go places.
Live and local, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. Sacktown Sports.
Brendan Nunez filling in for Alan Stiles here on Sacktown Sports, taking you up till 1 p.m. I had been saying it was just the Jonas Valanciunas presser all day. I kind of overlooked it. It is also the Jake LaRavia introductory press conference going on at 2 p.m. today. Little random NBA news. We just heard who's going to be in the three-point contest. That obviously All-Star Weekend taking place at Chase Center, just up the road in San Francisco. We're going to have Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks, Detroit's Cade Cunningham, Darius Garland from the Cavs. You got Tyler Hero, first-time All-Star, Miami Heat. Buddy Hield, old friend of the Kings, I guess. Cam Johnson, still a member of the Brooklyn Nets. Going to be rocking some Nets gear out there. Excuse me. Damian Lillard and Norm Powell. If we had to take a guess, Anthony, who we think comes out on top here, who are your top candidates? Again, Brunson, Cunningham, Garland, Hero, Buddy Hield, Cam Johnson, Dame Lillard, Norm Powell.
I want to say Hero. I feel like Hero would be a good win this season. He's been doing really well, and all the stuff with Miami, I think they need a win. The fan base needs a little win there. I hope that he does it actually, but I'd be happy with all of them, honestly. I kind of like except Buddy, maybe.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, it's a fun group of guys. I might lead even towards like Cam Johnson. I think would be pretty funny to see win. After he still remains in Brooklyn, you know,
he might turn into a Miles Turner situation where he just keeps being in trade talks and he's just every single net for year. Life.
Yeah, right. I mean, listed right after Buddy Hield on this, little fitting, some parallels there for sure. Obviously, different caliber of player, but I think it's a little funny to imagine opposing fan bases watch Cam Johnson win a 3-point contest and be like, God, we could have had that.
Yeah.
God, we could have had that.
The amount of tweets I'll be seeing after that.
Absolutely. I like Darius Garland's odds in this for sure. And hey, Buddy Hield gets the home crowd in all this. And But he's won. Has he won 2?
I believe.
I think he's won multiple 3-point contests.
Another one.
Maybe just the one, but at least one 3-point contest winner for Buddy Hield. One time, obviously, not even the best shooter on his team, but a little hard when you got Steph Curry there alongside you. So we'll see what ends up happening with the 3-point contest. Should be an interesting weekend while the Kings don't really have much representation there. Really, Isaac Jones being the only one. And we're starting to see Shams tweet out some different two-way players around the league. Quentin Post on the Warriors getting converted to a standard NBA contract. He gets a 2-year deal. You're also seeing the Raptors decide to do the same thing. Jamison Battle just converted from a 2-way contract to a 3-year deal. I want to say there was another one yesterday that I'm forgetting here as well, that Memphis may have converted one of their 2-ways to a standard deal. With all this going on right now, don't be surprised, like I've said a couple times, if Isaac Jones ends up making that move as well here. But want to continue to, I think before we have Chris Watkins join us here at noon, sort of give my perspective a little bit on just what's been going on with De'Aaron Fox. That's what everybody wants to talk about. I'm kind of over it, to be honest, but it's fine. We'll do it today, Friday, and then hopefully we can leave it in the rear view, at least to an extent after this. But I think a lot of my perspective is that, yes, De'Aaron did eventually get to a point where he was ready to be done with Sacramento. I think it's about the order of operations here from his perspective, though. It's not that he asked out and that's why he got traded. Dealing with things throughout the years, we've talked about this plenty. Chris and I have laid it out how we got to this point in the Return of Aurora podcast before De'Aaron was moved, of just how we got to this point that was just such a tumultuous situation between a franchise point guard and the team that he's currently on. And it's the things throughout all the years. He spent 7.5 years with this organization and continued to watch them make what he viewed were mistakes. They drafted a bunch of point guards in back-to-back drafts. From De'Aaron's perspective, how do you feel when they take Tyrese Halliburton, who was the obvious pick at the time, or they take Devin Carter in this draft when you got Dalton Connect, you got Tristan Da Silva sitting right there? I was admittedly a fan of the Devin Carter pick. I think that he can still be an interesting player for this King team, even if he hasn't had much production up to this point. And it's just a tough situation in general. But really, I agree with what some of the callers were saying, that I really think that most of us, if we were in De'Aaron's situation, maybe wouldn't have handled it the exact same, obviously, but it'd be hard to not be like, well, I could go to the Spurs, an organization that I can trust, I can be hands off, I can just trust that they will make decisions to continue trending us in the right direction, and I can focus on basketball. A functional, stable, specifically, organization that could not be more polar opposite than what he dealt with throughout the course of his career. I think a lot of us would have gotten to that point, and you can debate the, comments that he's made since and the ways that he just the comments that he's made in San Antonio, that I'm happy I finally got where I wanted after posting a goodbye to the city of Sacramento, saying I wanted to retire here. I've seen that be talked about a bunch on socials. That doesn't mean he wanted to retire here like the day that he sent out that tweet. That means in his mind, he thought at some point that was going to be the case. And obviously it got to the point where that was no longer. I think that there's just a lot of, it's about the order of operations here. Again, De'Aaron was approached and they entertained the idea of trading him. And he said, well, if they're going to do that, like it or not, I got some control here and this is where I want to go. So I'm going to make that public. And from De'Aaron's perspective, why would you want to get traded to some place you don't want to go to? Like, I think any player in his situation is doing that. And that may not make people feel better, but I think it's the reality of the NBA, is that players, when they have these opportunities, which you're seeing a lot of organizations be not loyal to their players. There's a long history of that. a long history of that. Luka Doncic being the most glaring example recently, obviously, and they're trashing him on the way out the door, that the players don't owe a loyalty to these organizations. And I think that there's a clear split between, how De'Aaron feels about the city and the fan base. I do think there's a genuine appreciation and love there. And it's a different feeling with the organization, though. And the people that he specifically were involved with very closely as the main guy on this team, one of the main guys for most of his career, if not all of it, in Sacramento. And this is just the point that we got to. So, I'd like to think that everything will eventually be water under the bridge, and we're not dealing with a Vince Carter in Toronto situation here. And sure, Vince eventually gets his jersey retired, but there was a lot of hate from that fan base towards Vince with the way that all ended. So I like to hope that we can eventually just reflect on De'Aaron's, even if you want to call it 6 years, and ignore the last year and a half. Like, he did a decent amount for this organization, and I think that should be praised, even if there is a understandable frustration right now from the fan base as this is all going on. So we're going to get to a break here. I'm kind of over talking about the De'Aaron Fox thing, but we will get Chris's perspective really quick as we get on the other side here. Chris Watkins is going to be joining us for the next hour from 10 to 1 before we head over to the Jonas Valanciunas and Jake LaRavia introductory press conference. So stay tuned here. Like I said, Chris going to be joining us. Appreciate everybody in the chat, and we'll hear you on the other side here. Brendan Nunez on Sacktown Sports, 1140.
You want to run out? Hurry in and save big during Honda's President's Day sales event at Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Hurry in and save on our best selection of new Hondas. Each is priced to sell now. Folsom Lake Honda is your one-stop Honda shop for great pricing on a giant selection of new CRVs, HRVs, Civics, and Accords with low finance and lease options. Plus, get an instant cash offer for your trade. Get to Folsom Lake Honda or go to FolsomLakeHonda.com.
Folsom Lake Honda, yeah, your one-stop Honda shop.
Power Business Technology is proud to be a 100% independent, locally owned and managed Toshiba copier dealer. Local ownership cuts out the red tape, allowing ourselves to never be too busy to personally answer the call when our clients need us. Recognized for excellence in service execution, training, and customer service, we're proud to be named a Toshiba ProMasters Elite Dealer since 2021. Contact us today for all your business printing needs at 844-POWER-BZ. That's 844-769-3729 or visit us at powercopiers.com.
Hey, it's Carmichael Dave for American Energy Heating and Air with a question. Have you recently had a technician diagnose your HVAC system and you were a bit surprised at how much it cost, or did something seem off about their quote? Because at American Energy, they take pride in giving you honest, straightforward solutions to get that system up and running. Have their qualified technicians come out and give you a free second opinion. It's free. You got nothing to lose but some dollars off of that original quote. They're making the uncomfortable comfortable. They've been doing it since 1981, serving the greater Sacramento area. A+ with the Better Business Bureau. That's why they keep having customers coming back for more and more and more. You can call them and set that appointment at 916-520-9990. That's 916-520-9990 or AmericanEnergyAir.com.
Call 916-520-9990 now.
This year, resolve to save on the all-new 2025 Silverado at Maida Chevy with $8,000 off MSRP after rebates on over 30 new half-ton Silverado LT and RST after rebates. And Maida Chevy has one of the largest selections of new 2025 Silverados in the Sacramento area. $8,000 off new 2025 Silverado at Maida Chevy. Now that's big, huge. See them all at MaidaChevy.com. Together, let's drive.
Not available with special financing, lease, and some other offers. Based on 2011 or newer Chevrolet.
This 49er Injury Report is brought to you by Jeremy Winter, attorney at law. He cares because he's been there. After an injury-plagued 2024 season, which ended 6-11 and out of the playoffs, the 49ers will focus on getting healthy in the offseason. Running backs Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, and Isaac Guerrero all suffered season-ending injuries. Left tackle Trent Williams' ankle kept him out late in the year, and Brock Purdy missed the season finale with a hurt elbow. 49ers hope to enter 2025 with a full roster back intact.
Serious accident. You deserve the law offices of Jeremy Winter. 877-637-3237. Jeremy lost his mother in a car accident and knows firsthand the pain caused by tragedy. That is why he became an attorney to fight for others who are going through a tragedy. If you've been seriously injured in an accident, you deserve more. You deserve better. You deserve Jeremy Winter. 877-637-3237.
KHTK HD1 Sacramento, KYMX HD3 Sacramento.
From the Power Business Technology Toshiba Studios, Sacktown Sports 1140.
Live and local, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Sacktown Sports.
Brendan Nunez filling in for Alan Stiles here on Sacktown Sports. Got one more hour from me here before we take off to the Jonas Valanciunas, Jake LaRavia introductory press conference. Chris Watkins joining me for that hour, sitting here in studio. What's going on, Chris? You doing all right post deadline?
Yeah, I think it's finally settled in that we're in the post deadline era now, and it's definitely very welcomed because I think you've said it a couple times. I feel like you and I have both said it a couple times this week in general, but it's been a crazy week. I think it's actually probably for us been a crazy like 2.5 weeks, just with everything kind of brewing from there. And I'm really, it's kind of hasn't settled to me yet that it's like, no, like I think all of the craziness is actually going to come to a stop here, especially with the All-Star game coming next week. But for you and I mean, we're going to be out there at All-Star. So I don't know if for us personally, it's the madness is going to stop anytime soon.
Yeah, for sure. This is the most tired I've been in a hot minute.
Yeah.
Shout out Frankie Carselli. We need our guy back.
Dude.
No, not don't rush, Frankie. Take your time. Take care of the little one.
Tuesday, right? I think he said he's coming back Tuesday.
Yeah, we'll see.
Preliminary.
Dropping news on here.
Yeah, we'll
Dropping
see.
news on here.
I mean,
yeah, we will see. Shout out Frankie and Frank Jr. By the way, Frankie's come back to a whole different team here.
Yeah, whole new world.
Whole new world.
Yeah, his kid has no idea.
Everything went
anything.
to crap right when Frankie left. And I don't think we're drawing the correlation enough
here. That is 100% confirmed.
Yeah.
We know that Mike Brown, talked to Frankie a couple times, during press conferences. Maybe everything kind of went wrong when Frankie stopped showing up in the building. And I don't know. I mean, that's the only logical conclusion I can come to because I really don't know how else we got here.
Yeah, no clue. No clue.
Things spiraled really quick.
Yeah, I want to ask you about that. Like I said on the other side, I'm a little over talking about De'Aaron,
sure.
But
I get it.
I get why everybody still wants to talk about it. Carmichael Dave had a conversation with him yesterday and shared some of those details this morning. Being transparent, I mean, things that we had kind of heard in the weeks leading up and throughout the course of this season. And, you can't always run with everything. Dave did a great job getting it on record, getting approval from De'Aaron to share all of that stuff. But just what have you kind of made of the aftermath of after De'Aaron gets moved to San Antonio, some of the comments he makes, people comparing the, goodbye where I wanted to retire here to him saying I was ready for a change when he gets to the Spurs. I mean, just kind of what's been your perspective on the chaos that surrounded De'Aaron Fox these last few days?
It's just been confusion on my end. I feel like I've missed a piece of this because, I just don't really understand where really the frustration stems from. Like I get being upset. And I think I told you this the other day. Like I totally understand Kings fans feeling upset that another one of their franchise players has seemingly walked out the door and at the trade deadline as well in a very unceremonious fashion. Of course, DeMarcus Cousins, and there's been a couple before that as well. Funny enough, like Peja left this team at the trade deadline as well. I don't think it was nearly this messy at all, but this team does have a history here of kind of these things happening. And I just kind of was surprised to see that it turned so nasty so quick. Again, I understood where people would maybe be frustrated in seeing, De'Aaron said he wants to stay here for his entire career, and we as an organization let him go. I understand that angle, but I don't understand the angle that people have seemingly took that De'Aaron forced his way out or even really, I mean, I've heard you say technically, and I think it is like a very weird way, a weird circumstance to put it, like to try and frame it. But I do think it's as simple as like, hey, everybody out there, like, were you upset as a Kings fan that they haven't gone out there and gotten wings? Yeah. Were you upset or felt like, Mike Brown definitely wasn't doing the best job in that moment, but did he need to be fired? Did you think that was a little quick and rash? Well, De'Aaron Fox did too. And I think, and were you upset that the Kings were losing games? Yeah, De'Aaron Fox was too. And I think that's just kind of the part that I haven't understood is why people are frustrated at De'Aaron for feeling things that I would think are very understandable and right in front of you. And also, I kind of feel like people, I hate to sound like I'm being a player apologist here, but De'Aaron had to play ball here a long time. And I don't mean play basketball. I mean play along with this isn't crazy dysfunctional. I want to get out of here at the quickest exit. Like, he really did his part to make this seem like a place where people should want to be, and it's not a laughingstock. And then I think, again, knowing that context, and knowing that, again, all De'Aaron did was tell this organization, hey, and I think it's interesting, too, that, again, De'Aaron's on the side of stability. He's on the side of Mike Brown. And I think a lot of the people that were internally, the players that were maybe against Mike Brown, were a lot of the guys who hadn't been here for 6 years leading in and didn't understand the context of, it doesn't really matter that this coach isn't perfect because this place hasn't had a good coach, period. And sometimes stability is better than going out and shooting for the stars. Sometimes you have to settle for what's good enough because there might be other problems that are bigger to address. And I think that's mainly where De'Aaron's coming from with this defense of Mike Brown, with such a hard defense of Mike Brown, because I think that's, again, another place where people could get frustrated is they say, well, De'Aaron, it wasn't your place to step in front of Mike Brown and take that bullet and say, if Mike goes, I go. Like, he didn't have to do that. I understand why you might be upset at that. But again, at the same time, De'Aaron's just thinking in that moment, we've had no successful coaches, and the first successful coach we have, you want to get rid of immediately. Let's not do that. Like, I just, again, it's just for me a level of confusion as to where people are kind of hopping over the line and saying this is now like an active attack against Sacramento.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think that you laid it out well for sure. He doesn't have to, tie himself to Mike Brown, but this is a guy that had been successful with the Kings. And just to be blunt, good organizations, you have one hiccup season, and it's not one hiccup season, I guess, actually. It's really the two. But he dealt with the exact same roster, essentially, that he was dealing with in previous seasons. Sure, swap DeMar DeRozan for Harrison Barnes is not a small swap, but it fixed none of the issues that were on this team. As much as De'Aaron may have been a fan of the DeMar acquisition, I think he was still very aware, that we need wings and forwards. And it's the same things that I think, like you said, that we had been frustrated about, that the fan base had been frustrated about for this team over the years. And I think a lot of what sparked this was Malik Monk's comments post-game, saying, quote, by the looks of it, they say he wanted to be out of here, so he got what he wanted. And you could sense a little bit of a frustrated tone from De'Aaron there, or from Malik. He said he didn't talk to De'Aaron Fox throughout the process leading up to the trade and had not spoken to him since afterwards, saying, quote, I'll probably talk to him later on down the line. I get Malik being frustrated with the situation. This is a guy that re-signed in Sacramento, partially came here because of De'Aaron Fox. And essentially De'Aaron's kind of saying, hey, I didn't think the team was good enough. As a player on the team, you probably are like, are you talking about me? Sure. Not straight up. It's not that black and white, obviously, but I could see there being an aspect of that. And I think it's understandable for Malik to be a little bit frustrated. But I think the important part of the quote here is, by the looks of it, and they say he wanted to be out of here. Who is they? Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. We don't know. I think that we saw Monty McNair go out there and kind of point the finger at De'Aaron Fox in that press conference. We don't know what's being said behind closed doors here, what's being told to different guys. And that's part of why this is so messy and feels so high school, It's like, why are there all these things leaking from different places? There's just conversations where you're trying to digest what's from what and what's fact and what's not. It's a messy situation, but I think part of the thing with Malik here is like we don't know what other players were on the same page with De'Aaron when it came to Mike Brown. We have a pretty good feel that there were a handful of players in that locker room that did not like Mike Brown.
I think De'Aaron was probably the minority.
Yeah, I would think so too at this point in the season for sure. It's been pretty well stated. Like Domas didn't seem to be the biggest Mike Brown fan. Malik Monk, I think, as you're trying to read the tea leaves and guess a little bit of where this could be coming from, I think that Malik
it took Mike's job being on the line for him to start.
Yeah,
I think that's again just if we're thinking human to human here,
right.
Like somebody you probably at some point feel like this man is actively trying to hold me back. I think that's understandable for Malik to feel that way, right or wrong.
And Malik said multiple times like that he wanted to be a starter.
And you pointed out that Domas has said immediately after, that decision was made, Domas goes out there and says like, it's about time. Like we know what Malik can give us.
Yeah. And I think that when sort of like factions start in a locker room is where you're like, all right, we got to do something here.
Yep.
And so I get why it got to the point where it was time to move on from De'Aaron. And again, I feel like I just see both sides here. I understand De'Aaron's frustration with the organization. I feel like Kings fans should as well, because they've dealt with it as much as anybody else, just as much as De'Aaron and probably longer for a lot of Kings fans out there, obviously. But sure, the comments on his way out aren't things you love to hear, but I keep using the comparison. It feels like, you're upset to see your ex in a happy new relationship. And it's a very, very quick turnaround. I mean, she gets with somebody else 3 days later, you're going to feel a type of way. Sure, you don't have time to cope with it, right? But
Alan's not here, man.
You're right. You're right. That's a good point.
Let's save the people.
I'm trying. I'm trying to keep up. It's still Alan Stiles Show.
That's true. That is true.
So people in the chat saying
I can't imagine
that. Well, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, I was like, I can't even.
Maz here. Why are we still talking about De'Aaron? We have a whole new team. I am down.
Yeah,
I'm all about it. So on the other side here, want to dive into the changes that have been made. De'Aaron Fox is out of here. Alex Len, Jordan McLaughlin, Kevin Herter, Colby Jones, and you got Zach LaVine, Jake LaRavia, Jonas Valanciunas. Two of those guys have already made their Sacramento debut. Jake LaRavia and Jonas will have their intro pressers later today. So on the other side here, myself, Brendan Nunez, and Chris Watkins will get into the new look Kings starting a new era in Sacramento. Stay tuned here on Sacktown Sports 1140.
All guests and callers join us from the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
The only place you'll find Malik Monk is Sacktown Sports.
Oh my, what an athletic move that time by Malik Monk.
Hey Sacramento, it's Malik Monk and you're listening to the home of the Sacramento Kings, Sacktown Sports.
Your local sports leader.
It was 1879 when the first President's Day was established, and it's been a holiday ever since. Hi, this is Franklin Rosa with a word about Naturewood Home Furnishings. I'm guessing when the Keys family opened the first Naturewood Home Furnishing store in 1948, a President's Day sale was not top of the mind. But the family probably celebrated the holiday with a picnic and a big slice of cherry pie. The store name Naturewood was selected to reflect the quality of the wood furniture for sale. And that focus on quality continues today with brands like FlexSteel, Trailway, Stickley, Fusion Designs, Stanton, and many, many more. The Naturewood Home Furnishings President's Day sale is the perfect time for you to find the right accent piece for your living room, a new bed for your bedroom, or to completely refurnish your entire home. See all the fine furniture and accessories on sale with Naturewood's President's Day sale. Find that perfect piece of furniture that's new today and filled with memories for tomorrow. Naturewood Home Furnishings, off Highway 50 in Hazel. Look for the water wheel.
Live and local, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. Sacktown Sports.
Brendan Nunez, filling in for Alan Stiles here on Sacktown Sports. We got Chris Watkins here as well. Carmichael Dave with some big news this morning, talking about the conversation that he had with De'Aaron Fox yesterday. And De'Aaron provided some context to just his perspective on the way out. We dove into that on the last segment here. But as the chat points out, De'Aaron's no longer on the Kings.
Good point.
And they got a new look roster. It's a Zach LaVine era.
Does it look new?
In Sacramento. It does.
Kind of same old problems.
To an extent.
Yeah.
Same old problems for sure.
Yeah.
You gave up 140 twice on the road trip.
Yikes.
And then you gave up 130 points to the second worst offense in the league in the Orlando Magic. And Orlando was a decent bit worse than 28th Washington Wizards offensively. Franz Wagner had, 36? Something crazy like that. Yeah, you definitely felt all of those buckets. Alan Stiles, for some reason, hated the Anthony Black three. That was really the nail in the coffin for Alan.
Yeah, he could not
he got up right after that one. He's like, this one is over.
Anthony Black is one of those what are we doing here's for Alan, where it's like,
as if he wasn't a lottery pick,
exactly.
But all good. Deeper bench for Orlando right now. But just throwing it to you vaguely at first. I mean, what are your thoughts of, just to run through the deadline moves here? You got Zach LaVine, Jonas Valanciunas, and Jake LaRavia on this team, while De'Aaron Fox, Kevin Huerter, Jordan McLaughlin, Alex Len, and Colby Jones are on the way out. Really, three of those, honestly, all due respect, don't really matter. They weren't playing. I said all due respect, and that was super disrespectful in very classic fashion.
Yeah.
But just from the perspective of these guys were not expected to play significant minutes for the Kings. Shout out Alex Len, who spent a while in Sacramento. I think,
and is back in Washington.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that. Is back in Washington now, right? He's just he's returning to all the old teams. Who's the other guy?
A journeyman who takes the same journey every time.
It's like D'Lo, right? D'Lo is the one that's going back.
He's gone
to
from
Brooklyn.
Lakers to Brooklyn to Lakers to Brooklyn.
Lakers, Brooklyn,
Minnesota.
Warriors, Lakers, Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Now he's just got to go back to Golden State. I don't think that would happen. Yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
That's the golden reunion they're hoping for.
But how different do you feel like this roster is? What stands out to you about what you think they'll be better or worse at after these moves?
Yeah, I mean, let's start positive. I mean, obviously with the addition of Zach LaVine, if you just want to say swap for swap with De'Aaron Fox, like that, he's a much better shooter than De'Aaron is. I should say much more consistent shooter than De'Aaron is. We've seen here, these past couple games, it hasn't looked consistent, but
typical, right?
Right, exactly. Of course,
Bellinelli.
It's like Bellinelli, exactly. Aaron Aflalo, and of course De'Aaron goes there in 24-13 game one. Doesn't he looks like he's been playing with that team.
Is it wrong to say Justin Holiday is part of that group?
Yes, it is. It definitely is wrong to say Justin Holiday. But yeah, I mean, I think they're definitely a better shooting team for sure. Even LaRavia, if you want to view Jake LaRavia as just like a supersized Kevin Huerter, like maybe it shouldn't be that simple, but LaRavia has had a much better shooting season this year than Kevin Huerter has. As a matter of fact, he's had a better shooting season this year than Trey Lyles has as well. And I think you might see Jake LaRavia eat into some of Trey Lyles' minutes, as we've seen Trey be very inconsistent this season. So, overall, definitely a better shooting team. I wouldn't say they're better across the board defensively. I would say they're deeper as a roster, just kind of able, and you've definitely mentioned it, like they can go with some different lineups, different looking lineups now. You've mentioned specifically the jumbo lineup, which is an option now, which just wasn't an option before. Even their starting lineup is bigger. Like, it's crazy that, you have Zach LaVine, who's 6'5", 6'6". You have, I guess Malik is the shortest guy at 6'2", 6'3", but you got DeMar, you've got Keegan, and you've got Sabonis, who I guess is an undersized center, but you just have a lot of baseline size there to kind of deal with. Besides that, I mean, I do kind of feel like they've taken a step back defensively. I feel like from, frankly, like a basketball, I won't say basketball IQ standpoint, but just from a decision-making standpoint, it feels like they have a lot more guys who are willing and empowered now to kind of do whatever they want. We've seen Malik kind of, be a little bit more loose with the basketball. I think Zach LaVine is going to be empowered a lot. DeMar DeRozan is going to be empowered a lot more now. So it just kind of feels like the ball movement is going to really stagnate at times, and the number to watch is going to, on a every night basis, I think going to be that assist to made basket ratio. Going to probably be a lot of like 15 to I don't know, like 35 made shot. I don't know. It's just going to be a complete mess in terms of getting assists. So I don't know. Like I think we said it the other day. I feel like it would frankly be an accomplishment for this team to make the playoffs in whatever capacity. Like I think if you make it through the play-in, you obviously feel good about getting through that gauntlet. But if you're a 6 seed or however you just make the playoffs, I feel like that would be, especially considering where we're at right now, that feels like it should be considered a quote unquote successful season for these guys.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And for what it's worth, I mean, that's probably not far different than where the expectations were at when De'Aaron was still on this team.
Which is strange.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, with LaVine being that centerpiece, I want to dive into what he brings to this team a little bit more. In the 42 games he played with Chicago this season, averaged 24 points, 4.5 assists, 4.8 boards, 51% from the field.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Is a career high. 44% from three.
Also,
you guessed it, career high. And, you know, he's right there next to Domas as one of the league leaders in 3-point percentage. Difference is Domas takes a little more than one a game. Zach LaVine takes 7.3 3-point attempts per game with Chicago this season. And I think the other important thing to note here, as he really struggled in his first 2 games, specifically more so that Orlando one, I would say, and not the greatest showing yesterday against Portland, 8 of 19 from the field, 3 of 9 from 3, 22 points. But he hadn't played since January 27th. He missed 4 games. The last 3 games that he had as a member of the Bulls, that's the wrong way to say it, getting to experience the birth of his third child, so was away from the team for a little while. And then, you know, he told us in the locker room, like his wife was like, no, you're gonna go to that game. And she was out there too, with you know, so quick transition for Zach, obviously, and adjusting to a new style. I think he talked about after the game of, you know, recognizing that when Malik's off the floor, like, hey, we need you to play point. Domas came up to him and told him that during that Orlando game. He sort of shared that interaction. Mm-hmm. And so there's going to be natural adjustments here, but I guess Zach LaVine's the number 1 on this team now? If for however much it matters, like, you know,
guess, yeah.
Is this, I guess you're expecting him to put up 20 plus a night, obviously. Just, you know, how do you feel about having LaVine as your number 1, obviously now moving from De'Aaron on to Zach?
I mean, it's definitely, I'll pull your card here and say no disrespect to Zach, but it's definitely a downgrade for sure. You know, he's just not, De'Aaron Fox is a top 25, top 30 player. And Zach LaVine is not. He's probably a lot closer to in the 50s range, which is fine, which is still a great player, but it's not the kind of caliber player that can lead you in a playoff series. And, you know, I think that's kind of still the thing that the Kings need is funny enough, you get rid of your franchise player. Well, now what's your biggest need is probably a franchise player. And I don't know how you're going to get that. Obviously, the draft is the easiest way of doing it. That's how they got De'Aaron Fox, how they got DeMarcus Cousins. But, you know, I guess maybe with this new asset haul, with clearly the snowball a little bit shaken up this season, who knows? Who knows what the Kings are going to try and address this offseason? Who knows? Again, I pointed it out the other day when we were on with Alan. Sam Amick said the other day when he was on the morning show that he wasn't very confident that Zach LaVine was going to get an extension here in Sacramento, that this might also be a short-term move from the Kings' perspective of things. So I think it's definitely a downgrade in terms of a player for player, but Zach is still a really, really talented guy. It's been said, but he's having a career year like you just listed out. I just don't think that he's necessarily a North Star. I don't think he's somebody that you can build your entire offense around. Maybe you can argue that Domantas Sabonis is truly, I would say, this team's best player. But I just feel like this team with Zach LaVine as your primary scorer, and as we saw in the playoffs, Sabonis can lead you all the way through the regular season. But come postseason time, it's a guard's game. It's a shot creator's game. And that's just not Domantas Sabonis's bag. You're going to need somebody to kind of take the crown, no pun intended, in a situation like that. So I just don't think that Zach is really capable of being the best scorer on a team that wins a playoff series. And again, I guess that's disrespectful, but I kind of think that that's just the reality of the NBA. It's a star-driven league. Frankly, in order to win a championship, you have to have a top 10 player. It's a lot easier if you have a top 5 player. And if you don't have one of those, you're already climbing a massive uphill battle, which we just saw with Fox and Sabonis. 2 top 30 players on your roster wasn't enough to get it done. You know, there's not really much reason to believe that you downgrade that top 30 to a top 50 and should expect better results.
Bunch of hoopers on the roster while Sabonis tries to get everybody to calm down and play some team basketball.
Pretty much what it is, yeah.
It really is. You got some buckets, though.
Yeah.
Malik Monk, Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan. You can get buckets out there, and you're going to see a lot of mismatch hunting in isolation. Saw it a little bit yesterday, some tough shot making available, but going to dive more into, we just talked about Zach LaVine, but obviously the other additions that have their introductory press conference later today, Jonas Valanciunas and Jake LaRavia. Going to dive into what the Kings traded to acquire those guys, what we make of the deals, and how they can help the Kings as they're sitting here 1 game below 500, trying to climb above the currently 10th seed in the Western Conference. So stay tuned here on the other side to see what we think those guys add here. Brendan Nunez, Chris Watkins, Sacktown Sports, 1140.
Saturday night, Kings and Pelicans. Game night with Scott Marsh and the high flyer Henry Turner starts at 5:30. Tip-off at 7.
The Kings play here on Sacktown Sports.
Sacktown Sports, 1140.
Hey, it's Carmichael Dave for my good friends over at Jiffy Lube, and they want to show some customer love this month with their February oil change deals you can find online today. Visit jiffylube.com and find a service center near you to see these sweetheart deals, get it, during the month of February. Here's what you do. Drive into savings at jiffylube.com today and let yourself save in the month of February. Tell them Carmichael Dave sent you.
Okay, guys, who is done with their Valentine's Day shopping? What are you waiting for? Stop putting off your Valentine's Day shopping and go to Prestigio Jewelers today.
She's right. Prestigio Jewelers has everything you need for Valentine's this year. And you're approved to guaranteed. No credit, bad credit, even bankruptcy? 6 months proof of income guarantees you a credit line of $400 to $10,000. Time is running out. Make this a Valentine's Day she'll never forget. Visit one of our showrooms today or online at prestigiojewelers.com.
Tom's Watch Mart has the best happy hour in Sacramento, starting with $5 specials all day, every day, plus select $7 appetizers and $12 entrees, with 360-degree viewing and game day vibes that match being at the game. Tom's Watch Mart is the ultimate game day experience for sports fans.
At Stockton Honda, we know how to honor a great deal. Like right now, during our President's Day sales event, you can find star-spangled savings on some of our best models. Why not stop in today and see for yourself? Save thousands with low APR financing and great lease rates on over 500 new Hondas at Stockton Honda.
Anytime, anywhere, it's all here. StocktonHonda.com.
You know, when it's all on the line, you need a big-time closer, and that's especially true when it comes to your garage door. And that's why I recommend National Garage Door, 638-4554. Whitey Gleason here for National Garage Door. Whether you're looking to repair an existing door or get a brand new one installed, you need National Garage Door. Family-owned and operated. They've been around since 1974 because service is their number one priority. National Garage Door are the region's BSE, it's broken spring experts. Styles, prices, and quality of the new doors will amaze you. Our garage door was starting to sound kind of, and that's not good. So Kevin from National Garage Door came out. He said patching up the old one was an option, but we're getting a new garage door. We're pretty happy about that. National Garage Door sells quality Rainer branded garage doors. They offer sales, service, and installation on all residential and commercial doors and operators. If you have garage door needs, old ones coming apart, or you're looking to improve your curb appeal, let National Garage Door come through for you in the clutch and be your closer. 638-4554, National Garage Door.
The good news? Now that you've lost the excess weight, InShape Fitness is here to help you maintain your new look with everything from fitness classes to full-length mirrors to admire your new self. We are InShape. You are ready. Join online today at InShape.com.
Fall head over boots in love with music this Valentine's Day. Get ready for Sacramento's premier country music festival, Country in the Park, returning May 16th and 17th at Cal Expo with Bailey Zimmerman, Billy Currington, and more. Enjoy food trucks, mechanical bulls, and line dancing. Tickets start at just $52. Visit CITPfest.com. Brought to you by Hyatt Vacation Club. Don't just say, I love you. Show it with music. Buy tickets now.
Hurry in and save big during Honda's President's Day sales event at Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop.
Hurry in and save on our best selection of new Hondas. Each is priced to sell now. Folsom Lake Honda is your one-stop Honda shop for great pricing on a giant selection of new CRVs, HRVs, Civics, and Accords with low finance and lease options. Plus, get an instant cash offer for your trade. Get to Folsom Lake Honda or go to FolsomLakeHonda.com.
Folsom Lake Honda, yeah, your one-stop Honda shop.
Hey, what's up, Sacramento? It's Kyle Draper. Turn up the cleanliness at your restaurant, healthcare, or industrial business with Alsco Uniforms, the official sponsor of the Sacramento Kings Mop Crew. We've got you covered with crisp uniforms, hygienically clean linens, floor mats, and, of course, mops delivered weekly. But that's not all. Alsco Uniforms also offers weekly services for first aid and restroom supplies. Discover why it pays to keep clean with Alsco Uniforms. Just go to alsco.com to learn more. Again, that's ALSCO.com.
Live and local, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday. Sacktown Sports.
Brendan Nunez, Alan Stiles, Brendan Nunez, Chris Watkins here filling in for Alan Stiles with Anthony behind the glass. Chaotic last few weeks, really, a couple days as the NBA trade deadline is behind us. That concluded at 12 p.m. noon yesterday, where the Kings came out with Zach LaVine, Jonas Valanciunas, and Jake LaRavia and all of this. Chris, we just dove into what we think Zach LaVine can provide to this group, but Jonas Valanciunas stepping in, got the Lithuanian connection, obviously, with Domantas Sabonis. Curious if we got any Lithuanian listeners in the chat here, because I'd imagine that the Kings got to be new favorites over there.
I would imagine so, right? Like these have to be the two best Lithuanians of all time in terms of basketball. You would
That
think.
is a good question. Arvydas.
I don't know if he was Lithuanian. I don't know.
That's a good question, actually.
Yeah,
That's
I
a good
don't
point.
know.
But yeah, I mean, I watched some of those
Yeah.
Lithuania games, and like, yeah, I like jokingly was trying to think who else could we get, and only name I can think of, which people aren't even going to know
Good
this,
luck.
and I might be butchering it, is like Rokas Jukabaitis.
Huh?
You know, exactly.
Okay, that sounds like a
So, swear that's real. At least I'm close at very least. All right.
I'm sure you butchered.
I probably did butcher it. I probably did.
Monty
butcher it.
Eunice too.
Okay.
He played years ago.
For Houston or something,
yes,
right?
yeah. He played in like the mid 2000s.
That's a good shout. Yeah, but have some toughness on this team now as well that Jonas brings. 6'11".
Some people still are not over that Chimezie Metu thing.
Yeah. So what do we care about that at all? And for context, what is this? 3-4 years ago, Tyrese Halliburton's still on the team because he had some strong comments after the fact. Chimezie Metu goes up for a dunk, and as he's hanging, something like that, and as he's hanging on the rim, his legs kind of got tangled up on Jonas's shoulders a little bit, but he had nowhere to land.
Yes.
If you were to let go, you got somebody underneath you. That's part of the rule. You can hang on the rim as long as you're just waiting for people to get out of your way. Jonas took it a little personal, kind of grabbed him, threw him off the rim.
Yes.
And I don't remember Mezzie's injury.
He twisted his body around, but Mezzie broke his wrist.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. And Mezzie was out for a while. Tyrese had some comments of, it's really tough. Like Jonas is a guy that's established in this league, has a contract. Mezzie's fighting for his life in this league. And I thought Tyrese had some good perspective on that. But honestly, to be fair, like Jonas ain't thinking about all that in the moment.
No.
And there's no reason for him to in the heat of a game. Yeah, just a little funny. I don't know that we actually need to discuss if we care about that at all, but a little bit of a funny memory.
Yeah, no, it's a funny anecdote, with time, and it's funny that he's now on the Kings, but obviously you're not asking him to go out there and hurt people, but I do think that, some of that edge, some of that toughness is what we've all been asking for a while for somebody from this team. I mean, how many times have we kind of joked and kind of been serious at the same time that Trey Lyles is the only person that we really know that like has some, I won't say fire, because I think we all think Malik has some fire for sure, but like has that little extra.
Like I'm gonna get in your face.
Yeah, exactly. That the Morris twins, kind of keeping that energy. Jonas Valanciunas got that energy for sure. And like, he's big enough to where he'll step up to somebody and someone's going to step back.
Well, and the other thing is, I think that the Kings have guys that will back somebody
for sure.
But
yes.
I'm not going to be the first one to go
100%,
stand up there.
100%.
And
100%.
like Jonas decides to get into it. Like somebody hits, just throw a little elbow in the paint or something. Jonas going to go up to him.
Yeah,
hey, what's going on here?
You saw the non-foul on Shaedon Sharpe yesterday, and that was not dirty, but like that.
No, but that was
that's
physical.
the kind of physicality that we're talking about, but there might be some intention behind it sometimes.
I did watch that a little bit and think like, if this guy was on the other team, I would be like, God, he's just beating up people out here.
Super side note, they didn't call that a foul. Like they called that a clean block on Jonas, didn't they? Like I think they said it wasn't a foul. It was pretty strange.
If there was anything, I think it's like lower body contact.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. That was yeah.
Even though I thought he definitely leaned over. Anyways,
but yeah, what do you think he brings to this group? Do you imagine that he'll play alongside Domas at all? Would you explore that a bit? And how do you think he helps this team that was so much better offensively with Domas on the floor and then just kind of fell off a cliff when they went to their backups?
Yeah, I think people kind of have thought that the Kings need a backup big just to kind of do big things, right? Like protect the rim and set hard screens and be the rebounder and things like that. But they weren't thinking also that you can kind of kill two birds with one stone and you could, get a primary bench scorer on top of getting a backup center. And I think that's really the role that Jonas is going to be for this team. I mean, you saw it last night. It was something at least I was paying attention to. Jonas Valanciunas gets those shots up, man.
Yeah,
like he was legitimately in for 3 minutes, I think. His first stint had 4 shots, got some rebounds. You just notice him out there. And I think that's going to be the big thing. And especially looking back at some of his game logs, like, it's 15 minutes, 16 points. It's 17 minutes, 14 points. Like the dude just is incredibly productive when he's out there. And I'm sure sometimes it's going to be bad where it's like, man, this guy's really putting it up and he just doesn't have the touch today. He's not moving it around. He's just kind of getting it and trying to outmuscle people. But I think it works a lot of nights. And so the main thing I think Jonas is going to bring is that scoring edge, bring some physicality off the bench. And then again, you saw it last night. If Sabonis ends up in foul trouble, God forbid Sabonis goes down with an injury, you have somebody who realistically it's not crazy to give those minutes to. And I think that was really a sore spot for this team as we saw Alex Len get 6 or 7 starts these past couple of years. Jonas Valanciunas is definitely a quality starter. Jake LaRavia, again, he's going to be a shooter. But the thing that I'm most excited for is honestly, he hasn't been a fantastic knockdown shooter until this season. He's just been a great role player. Like, I think he's somebody who's going to bring a little bit of everything. Like, he's a good defender. He brings some size. He's 6'8", 6'9". He can play the 3, play the 4. Somebody who's just kind of aggressive, getting after it. I think yesterday on the NBC pregame show, I think Deuce was breaking down some of his defensive clips, just like somebody who's not giving up on plays, somebody who's incredibly active. And I think that's something that this team obviously just desperately needs. They need more guys. Keon Ellis shouldn't stick out. Like, Keon Ellis shouldn't be an outlier. That should just be a thing that multiple people on your team bring. And I think that's going to be the really exciting thing that Jake LaRavia brings, is just kind of, man, like, he's just doing a whole lot of everything. And hopefully if Devin Carter can kind of start to get his sea legs under him, I think you can actually have a pretty productive bench where those guys all kind of fill in where they need to. Devin Carter kind of does what I just described from Jake LaRavia. In an ideal world, Devin's rebounding, he's facilitating, he can score, he can shoot, he can obviously defend. I think if you can get your bench to all kind of be those utility role players and they all know what to bring on a nightly basis, I think that's how maybe this whole situation can end up a whole lot better than maybe what I'm expecting, is if the Kings bench took such a massive leap that it doesn't matter that the starters might have taken a slight step back.
Absolutely. And that bench 5, assumedly the top 5 off the bench, Devin Carter, Keon Ellis, Jake LaRavia, Trey Lyles, Jonas Valanciunas, that's much improved than what you were just dealing with. I think the point guard situation is a little bit up in the air, and I want to get into that on the next segment with you here. I think this is a bigger opportunity for Malik Monk, for Devin Carter, and some of these other guys. You're going to have Zach LaVine playing backup point guard a little bit, essentially, even though you may have a smaller guy out there next to him. But also, I mean, do you imagine that Domas's minutes could go down in general? He's playing 36 a night. He's one of only 15 guys to be 36 plus. Like, do you think that part of the logic here could also be like, hey, we need to lessen the minutes for some of these guys here? And Jonas, plays nearly 20 minutes a night in Washington, and they don't have the greatest depth there. Obviously, no Domas in front of him there, but you think that we could see maybe just a little less Domas to try to even this out?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think that's definitely the hope for this, is that you don't have to run him into the ground. And again, like, it's okay to give Jonas 20 minutes a night and give Domas a rest. I think the problem is going to be, Brendan, as we keep saying it, just kind of universally with this team, come playoff time. Come playoff time, it's not going to be okay for Domantas Sabonis to sit for 18 minutes. Like, you're going to need Sabonis to play 40 minutes, and that's where your question that we didn't have time to get to, but like, can they play together? The playoffs might be the time where they have to play together. Just if you feel, I think with this current roster, like, you feel like Jonas is probably a pretty pivotal piece to how this team would be successful. I think moving forward, you probably want to, I don't know if you want to say avoid that, but just maybe make it a little bit less Domas reliant. And I think that can be a good thing. Even if his numbers go down at some point, I think it might be a good thing if they're not so reliant on Domantas Sabonis being this team's North Star.
Absolutely. And, add in some needed depth here. We're going to dive more into Jake LaRavia here on the other side and where we think the minutes are going to come from. Just talked about Jonas potentially lowering Domantas Sabonis' workload, but where is Jake LaRavia going to get his minutes from? Who is going to play the large role of the point guard for the minutes out there, whether that's starting or the bench? We're going to dive into that more here. Brendan Nunes, Sacktown Sports, on the other side here on Sacktown Sports 1140.
This 49er Injury Report is brought to you by Jeremy Winter, attorney at law. He cares because he's been there. After an injury-plagued 2024 season, which ended 6-11 and out of the playoffs, the 49ers will focus on getting healthy in the offseason. Running backs Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, and Isaac Guerrero all suffered season-ending injuries. Left tackle Trent Williams' ankle kept him out late in the year, and Brock Purdy missed the season finale with a hurt elbow. 49ers hope to enter 2025 with a full roster back intact.
Serious accident. You deserve the law offices of Jeremy Winter. 877-637-3237. Jeremy lost his mother in a car accident and knows firsthand the pain caused by tragedy. That is why he became an attorney to fight for others who are going through a tragedy. If you've been seriously injured in an accident, you deserve more. You deserve better. You deserve Jeremy Winter. 877-637-3237.
Sherry, what have you done to your hair? What do you mean? Does it not look good? It doesn't look good. It looks freaking amazing. I can't believe how thick and healthy it looks. Oh, I must know your secret. No secret. It's hair volume from New Nordic. Hair volume, huh? Well, it certainly lives up to its name. Your hair has never looked so thick. It is gorgeous. I was so tired of having thin and brittle hair. Ugh, and the shedding. So I figured I'd give hair volume a try. Needless to say, I'm thrilled with the results. Hey, where are you going? I'm going to pick up some hair volume right now. My reunion's next month and I want my hair to look as good as yours.
Hair Volume is the best-selling hair tablet in the world and one of many award-winning natural health products from New Nordic, the #1 supplier of dietary supplements in Scandinavia. Purchase at newnordicusa.com or your local CVS. Available as a tablet or delicious gummy. Help your hair look full, voluminous, and beautiful again at newnordicusa.com or CVS.
Paid for by government.com. Have you heard? A recent stash of 1902 Morgan silver dollar coins has been found. These gorgeous 1902 silver dollar coins are as bright and shiny as the day they were struck, and less than 300 of these Morgan silver dollars are available. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone interested in silver coins. Just call government at 1-800-806-1641, and you are guaranteed a mint condition 1902 Morgan silver dollar featuring the iconic O mint mark of the New Orleans Mint, but with limited quantity. You must call now. These 1902 silver coins are still in uncirculated condition. That is 122 years years of history you can hold in your hand. To learn more, call 1-800-806-1641. Call now and you'll receive a free American Coin Collector's Bonus Package, a $25 value free with every order. Call 1-800-806-1641 now to secure your 1902 O Morgan silver dollars before they sell out. That's 1-800-806-1641.
Hey, Sacramento, it's time to party. Join us for the ultimate big game watch party at Mix Downtown, hosted by Sacktown Sports on Sunday, February 9th. Feast on Mix's all-you-can-eat taco and nacho bar and big game bites while watching the biggest football game of the year. Catch all the action on Mix's large projection screens and HD TVs. Doors open at 2 p.m. Kickoff is at 3. Mix Downtown, located at 16th and L Streets in Sacramento. It's 21 and over, so bring your crew and let's make it a game day to remember. For details, visit mixdowntown.net.
You can finally follow through with that resolution to get into that Jeep, Ram, Dodge, or Chrysler you've always wanted at Sacramento Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. It's the place where a handshake still means something, getting you the best deals in town with the best customer experience. See for yourself. They're centrally located right next to Hagen Oaks Golf Course.
The only station in Sacramento giving you local sports coverage from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. Sacktown Sports.
Brendan Nunez got one more segment here filling in for Alan Stiles as he gets a little break. Must be nice, little break after all this deadline stuff going on. Yeah. We'll get one this week, and not really.
Nope.
We got a game
tomorrow. And then Super Bowl's on Sunday.
That's right.
And then
That's right. Yeah, there is a big football game this weekend, huh?
People forget that there is football going. I know it is kind of crazy too, as you mentioned, Alan. Like last year at this time, Alan and I were in Vegas for the Super Bowl week ramp up, and that feels like it was like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Like
what was the most fun about that? Oh gosh, I think I know the answer. Something that wasn't released.
Honestly, no. It was just watching Alan go from party to party was really funny. Or watching him trying to coordinate go from party to party. Because Jay's hopping on at 1 for us and taking you till 2, but Jay Johnson knows people. And if people don't know that, you should know that.
It's like the definition of knowing people.
Yes. And even in Vegas, and especially, it almost felt like it was like Jay's playground out there in Vegas for Super Bowl week. And yeah, man, like shout out Jay, but like the playmaker, Michael Irvin was having a party, and just I was more so just the duality of both of us. I was like really focused on the show and like making sure like segment by segment we had probably like 15 guests lined up for the day, and I was more focused on that. But I'm really glad that Alan was able to have fun.
Yeah, fair enough.
That was definitely the best part.
Before we get back into Kings real quick, since this is our last segment, how you feel about the Super Bowl? I'm kind of like Do you have like a side you can root for in all this?
Yeah, I really I don't get the Chiefs hate. Like, I get it. I understand it. I understand why people get tired of it.
A little bit of a Chiefs hater.
Yeah,
not really. I hate Mahomes because of how he's talked about.
People just hate great. Like, I don't want to do that thing, but like people hate dynasties. People hate greatness. Like people get, for some reason, tired of seeing like people
historic
win
things.
over. And I just think it's like, this is what sport, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just too much of a sports purist, but I like watching the best teams be great.
Sports.
Yeah, like I don't know. I just think like this is kind of what we watch for, right? Is to see people be like the most insane that they can be. And Patrick Mahomes quite literally about to try and, even if they don't win, like they're the first team to ever show up in a Super Bowl after winning 2 straight. Like that's crazy, man. Yeah, so I'm rooting for Patrick Mahomes. I don't hate Patrick Mahomes. I don't like he doesn't have the deflate gate and all the cheating. People say like, oh, the refs call it in the Chiefs' favor.
No holding calls in the Super Bowl.
For sure. Yeah, whatever. Cry me a river. As
a Niner fan, I will cry you a river.
You actually will.
That's actually where my hate is the wrong word, right? It's like a competitive just sports fandom hate from my perspective.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Nothing personal with Mahomes in any sort of way.
It's the Lakers or the Warriors. There's no real hate.
It's fun to dislike a team.
It is. I just don't get why it would be Patrick Mahomes. But you're also speaking to Steph Curry's number one hater. It's like,
and for me, honestly, it stemmed from that first Super Bowl where the Niners are playing the Chiefs with obviously talking about Mahomes on the roster. Yeah, thanks for the reminder. Appreciate you.
In case people didn't.
And at like halftime, the Niners are up by more than a touchdown. And Mahomes had made I believe, double-digit comeback in every postseason game leading up to the Super Bowl. And the broadcasters would not shut up about Patrick Mahomes while the Niners are owning this game.
Right.
And they said a line that was like, Patrick Mahomes has him right where he wants him. And that was the moment where I was like, I can't stand this guy.
That's crazy.
That's not even his fault.
That's a glazed donut.
That's just something that was said.
I remember that.
It goes with the memes of, announcers loving Patrick Mahomes. And I get why they do. So, mine's all in good fun. And it don't got nothing to actually do with Mahomes. But, I think there's always a natural trajectory of going from, God, this guy keeps getting in my way, to eventually being, as a fan of a different team, right, to eventually like appreciating, witnessing greatness.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what we're Brady.
It took me a while to get to that point with LeBron, to be honest, as like
can't relate.
Guy that grew up a team that was on the opposite side of Braun, obviously. And eventually you're like, all right, I'm glad I was alive for this.
For sure.
Low key.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I think that's where we're approaching with Mahomes here, at least for myself. I'm sure that, Kings fans, Sacramento people may be a little bit split going into this one, or you want both teams to lose, which low key I'm down.
Yeah.
I'll root for Saquon Barkley a little bit.
It's got to be a tough one.
Can
for
Saquon
Niners.
just win by himself? Can we just ignore the rest of the team?
No.
No.
That's not how it
All right.
works.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, Chris. Well, as we start to wrap up here, Jake LaRavia and Jonas Valanciunas going to have their introductory press conferences here in a little bit more than an hour. Want to ask you where you think, who stands out to you as somebody that could lose minutes in this process. Obviously, De'Aaron Fox and Kevin Huerter are going out in the deal, and that's an obvious swap of, Zach will get De'Aaron's minutes, and I don't know who we could even say is getting Kevin's minutes, because Kevin wasn't getting very many minutes at this point. But, how do you expect if you had to guess, where would you go with the rotation? Who do you trim down a little bit to try to make some room for whether it's Jonas, Jake, as they look a little different post deadline here?
Yeah, again, like we talked about it. Was it yesterday when we were on with Alan?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Wild
that's
tongue.
crazy.
Long day.
Yeah, very long day. I think the LaRavia thing is interesting because I feel like he would take a lot of Trey's minutes. But I do wonder if maybe that Dante DiVincenzo thing plays in where the Kings, you talked with the USA Today guy who wrote that story about LaRavia being cut. He said, he's expecting $9 to $10 million in free agency. Like, I wonder if the Kings maybe say, like, we want to play Jake LaRavia 20 to 25 minutes, but, we are probably going to end up splitting those minutes with Trey and probably getting them both 12 to 15 a night. Trey would, again, just be the most obvious, I would feel like, because I think they're going to continue to try and give Devin Carter minutes regardless of how good or bad it looks. Keon is obviously going to get his minutes, and it would be tough to see that we end up in a world where Keon ends up with less minutes in all of this.
Yeah, that'd be that
would be a really weird twist. Obviously, Malik getting a bigger role. He's not going to get cut minutes. I guess Sabonis, like we talked about earlier with you adding Jonas Valanciunas, maybe there's a potential that Sabonis does kind of be able to cut down his minutes to reasonable timing. But I'll tell you, the number one person who is not getting his minutes cut and should have his minutes cut more so for his own safety because he's playing so much, Keegan Murray is not getting his minutes cut. I just don't think so. Maybe you can say Jake LaRavia can take some of his minutes, but it just feels like Keegan continues to be the primary. Like they had him on Anthony Simons yesterday.
They don't have a choice.
He's
going to guard Steph Curry. He's going to guard Trae Young. He's going to guard Kevin Durant. He's going to guard LeBron James.
I feel terrible for him, but I just don't think you can cut. I feel like Keegan's minutes should be cut. Like I think he, frankly, hasn't been playing amazing. And I honestly, the bigger reason why I think his minutes should be cut is because I think he's freaking exhausted.
Yeah.
But I don't see that. They are going to use Keegan any less. He just feels like he's a little bit of an outlier on this roster as well. He's just somebody who does things that nobody else can do.
Absolutely. And I feel like one of the things not getting talked about enough in all of this is that this is somewhat of a bet on Malik Monk. He's your starting point guard moving forward. He's not a traditional point guard. There's an argument to be made that he's even a better passer than De'Aaron. I think you could argue that he could make more difficult passes, but the consistency of how
he's better in the
he's
pick and
get
roll,
players.
I would say.
Yeah.
For sure.
But like spraying out to shooters, I would say that I think De'Aaron has an edge. De'Aaron had 13 assists in his first game with the Spurs.
Right.
Like that guy can pass the ball. I'm not
sure.
trying to downplay that. I think it's more about Malik's talents as a passer, and that definitely standing out there. But is there any slight aspect that you have of thinking like, Malik just turned 27, I believe it is, that there's potentially another step to his game as while he was already getting more opportunity, he's like altering his role a little bit here and feels like, while he may not have more opportunity necessarily when it comes to minutes, stylistically, he's going to have a little bit more of a change.
Yeah, I think there's potential for that. I don't really feel like there is. It to me feels like Malik is maximizing his game, and I think that that shouldn't be a slight to him. Like his game's at an incredibly high level right now. He's at like 18 and 8 or something like that for a lot of these games. But I just feel like he kind of already made the leap. He was already great in college and then obviously had that rough start in Charlotte. I think now he's kind of playing like he was in college. I don't know. I just don't really feel like there's another level for him to go to. To me, it feels like he's always just kind of been that super six man. And right now he's starting. Like, I feel like he's definitely reaching his ceiling, but that could just be me putting a ceiling on him. Like, of course, he can continue to grow, but I just don't see it. I don't really see the space for it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. There is a part of me that thinks there could be another step for Malik, but TBD, we're going to see how Zach LaVine fits on this team. Jonas Valanciunas continues to get adjusted, and Jake LaRavia going to get introduced alongside Jonas here in about an hour. So that's going to do it for me here, filling in for Alan Stiles, Brendan Nunez. Appreciate everybody listening. We got Anthony behind the glass. Thanks to Chris for coming in. Thanks for Brian of USA Today for joining the show and providing a little bit of background on Jake LaRavia, how we got to this point, what he could bring to the Kings. Jay Johnson going to take you through till 2 p.m. until the Drive guys eventually keep you up to date with everything going on with LaRavia, Jonas, and where the Kings go from here as they start a new era post-trade deadline. Appreciate everybody listening. Brendan Nunez, Sacktown Sports, 1140.
Right now at Wendy's, get 2 of these fave items for just $7. The spicier classic chicken sandwich, Dave's single, or 10-piece nugs. It's an